Good morning, everyone. Let's please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. And now the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call our meeting to order. We begin with the approval of the minutes of May 10.
Motion to approve.
That's last week, correct? And I was here. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next up, we'll start with Commissioner reports and comments. Vice President Baker, would you begin?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending our meeting. Just one thing, I had a request from the Clear Spring Fire Department. I don't know, many months ago, we provided $10,000 for a digital sign, and the sign, they were hopeful that was going to be put up on Route 40. The sign was to be put up on Route 40 there, right outside of Clear Spring. And they were trying to get state permitting, and they had some issues because of the scenic highway. So they're going to have to relocate the sign back towards their department, and now they're going to have to elevate it up on poles, and they were wondering if the commissioners would support $3,200 for the poles and the labor to get it all elevated up into the air. And I told them I'd bring that request to the commissioners.
That would complete the project.
That would complete the project, yes.
Commissioners?
Yeah, I think there was only one correction. I think it was 30,000, but I'm not sure. But yeah, that sign's not doing much good unless we can get it up.
30,000 or 3,000?
I think we gave 30,000.
30,000, yeah. And they want 30. They need 3,200, I believe you said. But
sorry about
that sign's not doing a whole lot of good if we can't get it up in the air. So I think I'd be all right with that.
Commissioners, everybody else okay? Consensus on that?
Yes.
Okay, I see 5 nods. Thank you. Commissioner Baker?
Thank you.
Probably need to make a motion.
A motion then?
Motion to approve $3,200 for the Clear Spring Volunteer Fire Company to finish the
Is there a second?
digital light project.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I guess the suggestion would be it come out of Commissioner Contingency Fund. Our staff will have to work through those issues, but about where the money's going to come from.
Okay. Is there a balance in our fund right now?
There is not,
Okay.
I believe.
There was a couple things put in there early in the year, I think including that 30,000. And I thought that back then I requested that we move that to somewhere else, which would have freed up. There were big chunks of money taken out of our contingency fund. Anyway.
Let's have staff review that, but right now we're.
Right, if the commissioners approve that, I'll work with Kelsey.
Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, 5-0.
And now that I think Jill could answer this question, I've had a call, I guess, marijuana distributing, or what are they, CBD, or whatever that acronym is, for businesses to open up in Washington County. They were asking me if there was a limited number of places that those facilities could open, or what was the criteria to get a license, and does the county have anything to do with that?
No, the licensing is actually, I believe, through the state of Maryland. In terms of zoning districts, we would probably consider that retail sales, so anytime we allow retail sales, that's where it could go, but they would have to go through Maryland to get their actual license.
Okay, I can get back to them then. Thank you, Jill.
Commissioner Baker, anything else?
That concludes my
Thank
comments
you.
and questions.
Commissioner Kiefer?
Yeah, I think as we all know, the General Assembly, the Maryland General Assembly, is requiring counties to form the Police Accountability Board, and I know our board has had a couple discussions on this. An idea that was presented to me from a town councilman in Smithsburg, Councilman Dave Dan, he had asked me if, as we form our board, if we could have guarantee representation from our local smaller communities that have a police department. So that would be Boonesboro, Smithsburg, Town of Hancock, and of course the city of Hagerstown has their police department as well. But just to bring in that perspective of true community policing And this is a requirement. The Police Accountability Board is what the state of Maryland is requiring us to form. And I would agree with that notion. So as we move forward with forming that board, I'd like us to also give consideration to making sure our small municipalities that have a police department have representation from their communities as well.
Wayne, do you know the breakdown on that? I can't remember. Was how many we're responsible for X amount of appointments, or our decision? Is it all of them or part of them, or?
You know?
Quite honestly, I'm not sure on the number, if there is even a limit, how many we can appoint. But then that board, that Police Accountability Board, if there was an incident that needs investigating, would appoint maybe a subgroup to hear that case.
Yeah, there are certain requirements that the state requires. There is a proposed ordinance that is going to public hearing on June 7th, where this board will have the opportunity to take a look at that and make any changes to it that you deem appropriate. The county commissioners are the appointing authority for the members of the Police Accountability Board.
So when that ordinance comes before us in June, I'll be proposing that if it's not already included, that we add representation from our small communities with the police department. I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, that's fine.
My second item here, I was contacted, and I believe we all were, by the Washington County Department of Social Services. I'm the commissioner liaison to that board. And a couple years ago, we funded a program called the Dad's Connection Program, which was previously funded by the state of Maryland, but the state of Maryland withdrew their funding. The Dad's Connection Program takes non-custodial parents, not always dads, but takes the non-custodial parent and helps them find a job if they don't have one, or helps them find a better, higher paying job if they need that, with the idea that it could help increase assistance to for child support, to their child for child support. And we budgeted, I believe, $30,000 a couple years ago, and that $30,000 brings in about $200,000 a year in additional child support, which is just that much less of a burden on local government services. The Dad's Connection Program is wanting to expand and create what they're calling the Dad's Apprenticeship Program, and they're hoping to take advantage of all of the jobs that are coming to Washington County in different industries, all the job openings that are available in just about every industry, to see if they could train or help train through an apprenticeship program, again, non-custodial parents, to help them find jobs and increase the funding that they contribute for child support. Social Services is asking for $44,703. Of that, $22,703 will go to a salary, which appears to be a part-time salary. $18,000 will go towards apprenticeship costs, and $4,000 towards marketing and miscellaneous supplies, for $44,703. I would like to see if there's consensus among the commissioners to incorporate that into our budget for this year, if we can, to help support that program. Again, what the Dad's Connection Program has already done has paid for itself multifold, and truly does help people find work. I love that adage, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day, but if you teach a man a fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And I think this is the type of social services program I support.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, I spoke to Mr. Piercy, and I have the folder. I'd support that. Just finding, Mr. Baker?
Yes.
There's 5. So, Administrator?
The previous position you mentioned is usually in their budget request. I think that's included already.
And that will continue.
I think that's correct. So I'm looking back to Kelsey. If everybody's wondering where I'm looking back to Kelsey. So this will be an additional request, so I can work with Kelsey, but if it's consensus on the board to do that, whenever we bring the final budget forward, we'll incorporate that in.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Burkett?
Welcome, everyone. Last week I attended a number of grand openings around Washington County, including a record-setting 4 in one day in Williamsport. And then my only other comment that I'd like to make is kind of to respond to Mr. Williams' comment last week about the school board's budget. I've made several public comments supporting the additional funding for at least a year now. And as I thought about that issue, I thought how similar that kind of investment is as it relates to business. First, operating to standard means you're meeting the general guidelines of your business. A good business that thrives will exceed what is considered standard for its business focus. I feel the same way about schooling our young people. Standard means we are just meeting the minimum required. We should want to exceed that idea of standard. Second, when starting a business, you have to be all in. You can't do a business just halfway. You can't throw a little money at a business, throw a sign on it, and expect big returns. And so investment in our schools may be big, but I believe will pay high dividends in the long run for our students. It would be my hope that the school board makes sure that monies that are invested go directly to support teachers and students. And then finally, you have to be in it for the long haul. We as a county need to be looking to the future and how our investment in our young people will have a positive impact on the future of Washington County. These were comments I made 4 years ago during a Herald Mail interview when I was asked about the school's budget. And so for me, nothing's changed on the school budget. Some of the school board's requests this year are for special positions that are needed to address the extreme behavioral issues that they are dealing with. And so if we can't fund their whole request, maybe we can fund a portion of their request. That's all for me today.
Thank you. Commissioner Wagner?
Good morning. Attended Character Counts, Carolyn Brooks. What Character Counts is they take the elementary school students and they honor the exemplary, everybody they were very proud of, obviously, but you know, it's like anything else, they pick the ones that excel and they award them with a, you know, nice little luncheon and make a big deal over it. And Carolyn Brooks does such a wonderful job, and her staff and everybody that volunteers for Character Counts. So that was an enriching luncheon that we attended, some of us. But I wanted to congratulate on her and the success with that. The room was full, and the kids were proud, and the parents were proud, and it's just, you know, it's just recognizing in our children. IKO North had Northeast, which is out off of by the deputies, the jail, the what do you call it, Correctional Institute. They had another grand opening. They're a big contributor to our community. They're vested in our community, and they make building materials, shingles, and everybody's suffering because of such as shortages. They're a year behind right now. It gives you an idea what the economy's doing. And as Commissioner Burkett said, it was four ribbon cuttings in Williamsport. I don't know if anybody's ever done 4 ribbon cuttings in one day, but they were Old Thyme Country Store, Still Smoking Barbecue, Lotus Moon Cafe, and Get Right Barbershop. So that was sort of exciting for Williamsport. They're right, they're all centered around the main street there to have 4 ribbon cuttings. But anyway, welcome you all this morning. That's all I have.
Hey, thank you. I attended the HCC graduation class of 2022. Congratulations to the graduates. It's HCC's 75th anniversary. I also attended the Character Counts event. Also the Williamsport 4 grand openings. I think Smithsburg about a year ago had 3. Williamsport topped them. I also was down at the training center yesterday. They were having their hose, pump, and ladder testing, which the county commissioners fund and pay for to alleviate that burden off the volunteer and the city of Hagerstown staff. So again, thank you for the county for funding that and make sure our firefighters are safe, and that's important to all of us.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I learned something. I didn't realize how they had the hose test, pump test, and ladder test. It's pretty interesting to watch. Yeah. It was, yeah.
All right, and that concludes my report. Next up will be staff comments. Staff here in the front, I think I have Kelsey. Please come down and introduce yourself and the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelsey Mace, Interim Chief Financial Officer. Staff and I, along with our financial advisor Davenport, met with the rating agencies on Wednesday, April 27th. I'm pleased to report that all 3 rating agencies have assigned our 22 bond issue the AA Plus rating and affirmed our overall rating of AA Plus. So I want to take a moment to thank John, our County Administrator, Susan, Director of Business Development, and Kim, Director of Budget and Finance, for their contributions in making this meeting a success, and to the board for their leadership and support. So thank you.
Kelsey, a question for you. What's that mean to us? How's that benefit by having AA bond ratings?
So maintaining these good ratings ensure that we get good rates on our bonds.
That means we spend less money when we borrow. Is that correct?
Yes.
That means that's a savings due to good accounting practices. Okay. Commissioners, any comments? Thank you to your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing with staff comments, I have Dave Chisholm written down. Is Dave around? Oh, there he is. Sorry, looking.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just wanted to note that this week is EMS Week, celebrated nationwide. Our EMS responders in Washington County do a fantastic job providing services to our citizens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter what the weather or conditions that we face.
Okay, we have a presentation for you. Baker once noted that a mutual friend of ours he passed, Mr. Shank. But there on the worst day of your life, folks, our emergency first responders are there to help. So heartfelt from all the commissioners, and thank you for what everyone does. For EMS Week, May 15th to May 21st, 2022, whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service. And whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whereas to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas EMS services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical service system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighter, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. Whereas the members of the emergency medical service teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continued education to enhance their lifelong saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Service Week. And now therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Maryland, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through 21st as 2022 as Emergency Medical Services Week, EMS. With the EMS Strong theme, EMS Week, rising to the challenge, we encourage the community to observe this week with the appropriate programs and ceremonies and activities. Thank you to everyone involved. That's yours. Now we ask to join the commissioners up front for the photo. Commissioner?
Mr. Oakley.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Continuing with staff comments, Mr. Downing,
No comments this morning. Thank you.
Krista? Mr. Administrator?
Just remind everybody that the public hearing on the budget is this evening at 6 PM at Kepler Theater at Hagerstown Community College. And the last thing I'll say is, I didn't have an opportunity to say when Kelsey was here, but I do want to thank Kelsey, Susan Grimes, and Kim Edlin for their participation in everything, their presentation in the calls with the rating agencies. That was a busy day, and they asked a lot of questions, and they had all the answers, and so thank you very much. That's all I have.
Okay, any other staff that I missed? Okay, next on the agenda will be citizens' participation. This is an opportunity for citizens to make comments to the commissioners about an issue or issues of county interest. This is not an interactive dialogue or a question and answer session. It is solely to hear the concerns of the citizens, their comments and opinions about the county, matters of county interest. So that being said, we'll start with the front row. Is there anybody who'd like to come forward and give their name and address? Anyone on the second row? Please.
This is regarding your next one.
That's fine. You can do, sure, you could do that now, yes. I do both.
Actually, if she's,
She's going to,
if you're here to testify on the rezoning, you should wait until that
Okay.
public hearing occurs.
Whatever you need, okay? That's all right, we accommodate you. All right, anyone else in the second row to speak? Please come forward, sir, and,
I'm just concerned.
ma'am.
May I speak from here or must I go to the front?
Well, if you can't get up, we'll bring you a microphone. That way we will make sure, can we?
That's okay.
Yeah, because when we broadcast this, it can't be heard very well unless you're there. But we can work with you.
My concern is.
Yeah, I would need your name and address, please. That's
Linda
okay.
Worrell, Oak Ridge Drive, over in Halfway, here in Hagerstown.
Okay.
One of my main concerns is the apparent mass construction of the warehouses in this county. I understand that they bring money, I understand that they create jobs, but it's also detrimental to some of the lifestyle that people have in the areas where these warehouses are encroaching on neighborhoods. And it's getting to be as though Washington County is a mecca for warehouses. And I realize that we have 3 popular interstate roads around. I understand the growth in those areas. I don't understand how they're popping up in so many other areas. And even there was something over on West Oak Ridge Drive when the Seventh-day Adventist Publishing Company was sold. There's 130 some odd acres there that the last report by the newspaper, I understood that there were to be 3 warehouses constructed there. The Prime Outlets is on the rear of that property. There's 5 schools across the street from that property. The traffic, did someone do a traffic supply or control? Or there's sometimes 3 to 4 red lights that you have to wait to get through the intersection right now between Potomac and West East Oak Ridge Drive. It just seems like there's more concern for developing this type of business than it is for the concern of the lifestyle and quality of life for the residents. The property I'm speaking of, supposedly, last reported by the newspaper, was the 3 warehouses and parking spaces for almost 400 tractor trailers. I am not averse to tractor trailers. My father was a driver. I worked in a manufacturing company that we serviced tractor trailers. We supplied them with material. But that area is not ready for that type of influx of traffic. So my concern is how they're decided upon, how those type of buildings are approved, and by who they are approved of, and when does the public get a chance to voice it before it's a done deal?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
And I try to, in addition to my earlier comments, trying to keep your comments to 3 minutes. I won't cut you off at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So I just would ask you to sum up, Elliot. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else wanting to speak at citizens' comments? If so, please come forward. I saw a hand up. Please, sir, please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Roger Worthington. I live at 9775 Beaver Creek Church Road. I used to represent a group called Citizens for the Protection of Washington County and a group called Friends of Beaver Creek. I guess we're like Minutemen. We come to the surface when we need to. But I've noticed, as this lady before me testified, I won't repeat that, but she's very accurate about that. And we're very concerned about what could occur on this zoning change. Recently, last night perhaps, there's an accident, a serious one, right there at the intersection of Beaver Creek Road and Route 40. These occur quite frequently, and when there's an accident on Route 70, Beaver Creek Road is totally blocked with traffic all the way. I can't even go from one place to another out of Beaver Creek Church Road. So what I'm concerned about is the trend to put in preference the developer coming into the community and changing the very character of those people that live there along those homes, that bought homes because they were in the countryside. So I question the wisdom to do another development change that could affect, especially if it's interstate and interchange, all the things that can come there. So that's my main concern here. And I hope that you can understand why we're here. And it takes a lot for folks to come out on these days to testify. I'm no longer the young man anymore, but I see things happening over these years, and I'm afraid that it's a trend that I realize we have to have more business, and we need that, but we need to look at what's going on too for taxpayers that are presently here and their concerns about their livelihood and their lifestyles. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Roger.
Is there anyone else for citizens' participation? Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Good morning. Stephanie Phillips, mailing address P.O. Box 1264, Falling Waters, West Virginia. I might need one extra minute. Last week was a lot of compliments because there were a lot of compliments to go around. This should be my last address for quite a while. Thank you all for your service to the community. The current update, I'm working on an educational program to promote successful marriages and families. Requested materials from the Catholic Church pre-Kana marriage preparation and Retiree weekend retreat for struggling families may not be forthcoming. The wheel might need to be reinvented. However, the introduction would begin with CPR, first aid, anger management, conflict resolution, followed with general psychology education on the lifespan development, especially childhood, and common problems anticipated and planned for. There will be more information forthcoming on this. However, if Maryland and West Virginia standardize your divorce laws, Langley, Virginia can jam up their own family court system rather than using West Virginia. My offer to help Emily Keller on her cleanup campaign. I have a few tidbits. One, Health at Work did not have masks available for 3 months into COVID. Two, I'm requesting a meeting with the city, county, top law enforcement officers regarding several incidences. One, a man down on sidewalk next to Reach Shelter with 20 bystanders did not dispatch police backup for EMS. Compare and contrast that with law enforcement proactively on site at a private business, anticipating an argument that never actually happened. Residents vacated approximately noon on Friday, keys returned, letter indicating good standing provided. A hearing was set 2 days later on Monday morning, first thing, and Judge Thomas opened the remarks with, "Would you like to plead guilty and save the court some time?" My response was, "I haven't heard any specifics to this case." His next offer was, "If you plead guilty, you can return to the residence temporarily for a few weeks while you try to figure out what you're going to do." At which point I said, "I'm not at liberty to comment." How did he know I had vacated? Hearing should have been canceled by Linda Ogilvie on Friday. There was obviously another agenda here. The letter of good standing was revised after this fact. The comment of many people complained was changed to many people uncomfortable, and the last sentence changed to indicate that I wanted the hearing. I only showed up to make sure that it was canceled. Judge Thomas did not follow due process, should have suggested I had representation, and he needs to resign. Lastly, being more than a decade behind on planning and zoning future development might be beneficial for the county if you place national security interests first, possibly becoming an international world peace destination rather than settling for Civil War tourism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else for citizens' participation? Please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Paula Worthington. I live with Roger at 9775 Beaver Creek Church Road. I also have a property on Beaver Creek Road, which was my family's property. I hate to see all of this development coming in to this area. It's a historic area. We all love it. I would like to know why, when something is zoned rural residential, what that includes. Why is it changed? I feel that if you don't like the zoning, don't buy the property. And the lights from the auto mall are terrific. And anyone living close to that can testify to the lights that it gives. They park their cars on the corner of Route 60 or of Route 40 and Beaver Creek Road. When you come out to the intersection, it's difficult to see traffic, even though it's coming from the opposite way, but the trucks are still parked there. I think what happened at the Herald Review is really a bad thing for poor Funkstown. When there's a traffic jam on Route 70, they use Route 40, and they use Beaver Creek Road and Oak Ridge Drive. The traffic at that point is really bad. You just can sit on the porch, and it's like watching a parade of everybody going by at about 3 miles an hour. I think that if this property is rezoned to anything other than what it is a bad idea. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else for citizens? Please come forward. Please come forward and state your name and address.
May want to clarify that this is not, we have not reached the portion of the hearing that is the public hearing for the zoning and map amendment. This is simply citizens' participation. So if you have comments germane to the rezoning and want those to be part of the record, you should wait for the
Okay.
public hearing.
Thank you all for the clarification. I didn't want to deny anyone, but thank you for allowing that to be explained. Is there anyone else for citizens' participation other than the zoning hearing that's about to take place? Okay, seeing none. Next on the agenda is a public hearing concerning RZ-21-007, an application for amendment to the zoning map. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the matter. The procedure is as follows. We will first have staff introduce the matter. The applicant will then have the opportunity to testify, after which the hearing will be open for public comment and testimony. Public comment and testimony is limited to 3 minutes. And again, I'm not going to cut you off at 2 minutes and 59 seconds. I may ask you to summarize if you go beyond the 3. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the applicant will have the opportunity for a brief rebuttal because the applicant has the burden. The hearing and record will then close and no other comments, correspondence, or emails will be considered. The commissioners may discuss the issue and take it under advisement, or they may reach a consensus to approve or deny the request. If a consensus is reached, the county's attorney's office will prepare a proposed decision for formal adoption at a later date. Would anyone, I do the oath right now, is that correct order?
The clerk will administer the oath.
Okay.
So
Anyone wishing to testify, please stand for the oath that will be given by our county clerk. And just a reminder, just for politeness, we don't call from the audience when you're raising your hand. Thank you. Krista?
If you would please raise your right hand. Do you each solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the responses given and statements made will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. Mr. Allen, would you please introduce the matter?
Good morning, everyone. Travis Allen, Comprehensive Planner with the Department of Planning and Zoning. As stated, this is a piecemeal rezoning case RZ 21-007. The applicant, 19817 Beaver Creek LLC, is requesting to change the current residential multifamily zoning to highway interchange over 2 properties on Beaver Creek Road totaling 131.28 acres. The existing conditions of these 2 properties include at 19817 Beaver Creek Road, the smaller of the 2 properties, an existing residential structure. The much larger of the 2 properties, parcel 51, is currently undeveloped, used for agricultural purposes. It contains woodlands, the ruins of existing historic site, and floodplain. An intermittent stream, which is Landis Spring Branch, does flow through the property before draining southwest into Antietam Creek. In piecemeal rezoning cases, the local legislative body is tasked with presenting findings of fact based upon criteria that are outlined in Article 27.3 of the zoning ordinance. Those include population change in the district, the availability of public facilities, present and future transportation patterns, the compatibility with existing and proposed development, relationship to the comprehensive plan, and evidence as to whether there's been a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood or a mistake made in the application of zoning at the time of the last comprehensive zoning plan. In this case, that would be the 2012 urban growth area rezoning. Most of those criteria that I just mentioned apply most specifically to change in the character of neighborhood cases. In this case, the applicant is claiming that there was a mistake made in the zoning in 2012, so I'm going to leave a lot of the information about criteria that I just mentioned to the staff report, which should be in your agenda materials if you have more interest in those. So I'm going to skip ahead to the availability of public facilities to this site. Neither water nor sewer, public water or sewer, is available to this site. Water and sewer are designated both W5 or S5 in the county's water and sewer plan, which denotes long-term plan service but not immediately available. For public water, the city of Hagerstown would be the service provider in the long term, but these properties are outside of the city's medium-range growth area, so they would have to drill a well at this point. In terms of sewer, the county would be the service provider there in the long term, but again, at this point, they would have to provide an on-site septic system. Looking next at compatibility with existing proposed development in the area, in terms of zoning in the vicinity of this site, north of I-70, you have a mixture of residential zoning classes, some smaller highway interchange areas, and of course, you have large areas devoted to the town of Funkstown. South of I-70, parcel size increases. You do have more highway interchange around the interchange itself. You have large areas of ag-rural and a residential urban district to the west. In terms of land use in the vicinity, historically along this stretch of Beaver Creek Road, you would have had mostly farming and woodland type of uses, as well as low-density single-family residential uses. And that does still predominate in most of the areas along this stretch of Beaver Creek. However, more recently, there has been sort of a limited amount of commercial development along this stretch of Beaver Creek Road, including the development of Vinnie's Truck Repair and Towing and U.S. Lawns within the immediate vicinity. Around the interchange, of course, you also have all the automobile dealerships that were mentioned just before. Along US 40, you have a variety of different low-intensity commercial uses. And then again, below I-70, you have mostly agriculture and low-density housing in the vicinity. The applicant is requesting the highway interchange zoning for this property. That district is defined in the zoning ordinance as being intended to provide suitable locations for commercial activities or light industrial land uses that serve highway travelers, provide goods and services to a regional population, or have uses that have a need to be located near the interstate highway system for various reasons. Looking next at the relationship to the comprehensive plan, in the 2002 comprehensive plan's land use plan, these parcels were designated as low-density residential. That land use policy area is primarily associated with single-family development and to a lesser extent, two-family or duplex development, and is the primary transitional classification from the urban to the rural area. As you'll recall, though, in these piecemeal rezoning cases, the crux of these cases is whether there has been a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood since the time of the last comprehensive zoning plan or a mistake made in the zoning at that same time. Again, we're looking at since the 2012 urban growth area rezoning for this case. The applicant is claiming that a mistake was made in the zoning at that time. The applicant does bear the burden of proof in these cases. You should be aware that there is a strong presumption that the current zoning is correct, and proof, even if offered by the applicant, doesn't require the body to approve the rezoning. In mistake cases, the applicant should offer one of the evidence of the following for proving a mistake. Failing to take into account projects or trends probable of fruition, making decisions based upon erroneous information, using facts that later proved to be incorrect, that the board couldn't have foreseen events that have occurred in the time since, or ignoring facts and evidence at the time of zoning application. So any of those factors potentially leading to the board making a mistake in their zoning in 2012. Again, in this case, the applicant is claiming that there was a mistake made in the zoning in 2012. Primarily, they are asserting in their justification statement that the properties cannot meet the requirements of the residential multifamily zoning district to be served by public water and sewer service. To a lesser extent, they also note that similarly situated parcels within the area were rezoned to HI in 2012, but these properties were not. So looking briefly at those assertions, in terms of water and sewer service, as we mentioned, these properties are outside of the medium-range growth area of the city of Hagerstown. That has not changed throughout the city's various iterations and adjustments to its MRGA boundary. So they have consistently been outside of the MRGA and have not had access to public water and sewer service throughout the city's changes to its growth model. We would also point out in looking at various iterations of the previous zoning ordinances that the requirements to connect to public water and sewer service were the same for both the highway interchange zoning district and the residential multifamily zoning district in 2012. They both require that these properties connect to public water and sewer. However, that requirement can be waived by the health department if they deem it fit. So those requirements were identical whether the property had been zoned RM or HI in 2012. In terms of zoning changes that were made in 2012, the RM zoning that is currently affixed to the property, that was primarily a recommendation of the Urban Growth Area Advisory Committee, who was tasked with studying various issues related to that comprehensive rezoning. They felt that this was a site that could facilitate multifamily housing development in the county. Staff at that time had recommended RT, or residential transition, which is a low-density zoning district, which was in line with the 2002 Comprehensive Plan's land use plan designation that I mentioned earlier, and also accounts a bit more for the water and sewer limitations to this site. We would certainly concede that in 2012, many properties within the vicinity were indeed rezoned to HI that are similarly situated, and we can only kind of assume that the committee was looking for zoning diversity around the interchange and determining that these properties were rezoned RM versus other ones rezoned HI at that same time, because the conditions are very similar, especially in terms of water and sewer access. So to wrap up here with this introduction, again, the water and sewer requirements were identical for both for these properties, whether they were zoned RM, RT, or HI in 2012. So it's a bit difficult to call it a mistake just because the requirements were the same for all of those zoning districts in 2012. Again, all required connection to public water and sewer, but there's at least the potential that that requirement can be waived by the health department. So it's not completely absolute that they have to connect to public water and sewer.
I have 3 questions for clarification before you go a whole lot further. The list of criteria you read off, what does it have to meet on that whole list of criteria, other than a mistake?
At the beginning, so the, again, basically so the mistake again is basically kind of that there was facts and evidence.
But there was a whole list you read off of criteria, right, that it has to meet?
The ones at the beginning are for any piecemeal rezoning case, but again, a lot of them kind of more so apply to change in the character of the neighborhood. So when we're talking about a mistake case, you know, for example, the traffic counts, population change in the election district, those are less germane to these specific mistakes.
And this property's never been inside the MRGA area? Never been inside ever?
It has not.
So it's always been outside?
It's always been outside. So again, in the long term, because of its proximity to the interchange, it's logical that at some point in the future, the water and sewer service may extend that far, but it is not foreseeable in the immediate.
So if it remains the same right now and nothing changes, the potential for that is 7 farmettes, 7 farms, 7 houses. Is that the potential?
Well, right now, it's zoned RM, so theoretically, they could put a high-density residential development here.
Well, yeah, I understand, but there's no water.
Right, so that's kind of the crux of.
The second best thing, you could still do 7 lots, 7 homes, 7 farmettes or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look and see exactly what they'd be permitted under the RM, but yes, the water and sewer limitation is ultimately the biggest factor for any high-intensity development here, whether it's residential or commercial.
That's all I had.
Mr. Allen, anything else?
Yeah, just, maybe it's in here. I know what would really be helpful to me, what would be permissible under the current zoning, a single sheet on what would be permissible under the current zoning, and then what would be permissible under the zoning if we were to vote to change the zoning. I was looking through here, and I'm just trying to find an easy page for me to look at so that I know it's going from this to that.
Sure, we can absolutely get that.
Really, that would really be helpful to me.
Yes, I mean, because obviously now, you're looking at mostly a high-density residential development in the RM, but obviously the HI district, were it to be rezoned to that, includes a wide variety of different land uses because it pulls from different zoning districts, so, you know.
Yeah, highway interchange could be a zillion things. Could be warehouses, could be anything, correct?
Yes, so, which probably brings up an important point that the Planning Commission did recommend for approval at their March meeting when they reviewed this case. However, they sort of caveated that recommendation for approval to you guys in stating that, in their view, more of a low-intensity commercial use would probably be logical and appropriate for the site, just because, again, there is a wide range of things permitted within the HI district, but because of the water and sewer limitations and because of, you know, the character of the neighborhood, it's very likely that not all of those permitted uses within the HI district would be possible or suitable for the area.
But Travis, if it were rezoned to highway interchange, we don't have a say as to what, so long as it fits the category of highway interchange. If we don't feel it's suitable, that's still not the commissioner's call at that point.
Yes, I mean, when these rezonings go through, ultimately you're approving the zoning. You can't really approve a specific type of use that goes along with it. So anything that is permitted within the HI district could theoretically be developed there. Again, when it comes to actually submitting a site plan and developing the site, that's where water and sewer limitations, all these other things, road capacity, would be very much determining factors in what could actually be built there. But at least from a zoning standpoint, anything allowed in the HI district would be permissible if the zoning was changed to that.
Travis, anything else?
I guess I'll just state that thus far, we have received 23 public comments, both written and oral, in the course of the public information and leading up till now. All those to this point have been in opposition. As you likely imagine, most of them pertain to the capacity of Beaver Creek Road to handle the new traffic that could be generated by development here, as well as other spillover effects from a commercial type of land use. One other comment that came up in the course of the Planning Commission and other people looking at this is the question of the traffic that would be generated by the Gaver Meadows development, which is also building out right in that immediate vicinity, and the impact that that would also have on that interchange as well, too. So those kind of summarizing some of the bigger points brought up in the public comments.
Anything else? Thank you. Before we continue, I have a question from Mr. Downey. Those who commented on this during citizens' comments, were their comments be put into the record, or they have to repeat their comments for the official record under this public hearing? What is your thoughts on that?
Many of the comments were general and not necessarily specific to this rezoning. So I think if they want it to be part of the record for this rezoning, they should make specific comments as part of this hearing.
All right. For those who maybe had commented during citizens' comments, I would urge you to come in up front when we have this open testimony for later. Okay, as we proceed forward, would the applicant please come forward and present this case? Thank you, Mr. Allen.
Set up an easel with a image of the general order.
Certainly, sir. Thank you. Mr. Vance, please introduce yourself and the guest and the subject. Thank you.
County Commissioners and staff, good morning. My name is William C. Wantz. I'm an attorney practicing here in Hagerstown. My address is 123 West Washington Street, and I have been sworn in this case. With me this morning are Mike Malepa, our traffic engineer and expert, and Josh Seawald, our civil engineer and expert. We've submitted their resumes at in the packet of information that I've provided to you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
My voice is a little thin this morning. First, I'd like to address three of the questions or comments that were raised. Commissioner Wagner commented that under the RM zoning, the practical use of the property may be restricted to low-density residential. We would agree with that contention based on the absence of public utilities necessary to support residential multifamily development, the current zoning classification of the property. Commissioner Baker suggested that a table of the uses in the respective districts would be useful. In the packet that I've passed out at the end of that packet, you'll find a table of the uses allowed in the HI zone, both by principal permitted use and special exception. And I've tried to go through that and highlight those uses which might be permissible without a requirement of public water and sewer. And Commissioner Kiefer, you're correct that in a rezoning case, under the decisions of the Maryland Appellate Courts in Rylands and H. Manny Holtz, which was a case that originated here in Washington County, it's impermissible to approve a rezoning limiting the uses allowable in that specific zone. It violates the uniformity provisions of the Maryland Zoning Enabling Law. I represent the applicant, 19817 Beaver Creek LLC, a Maryland limited liability company, and the current owner of the property. We ask that the application and all of the attachments submitted with the application be made part of the record of this hearing, together with the documents that I've passed out in the Commissioner's packet this morning. With us this morning is also Mr. Moshe Rubin, one of the principals in the limited liability company. As indicated by planner Travis Allen, the property consists of 131.38 acres, more or less, two contiguous parcels. One is the existing residential dwelling on the property, and the rest of the property remains unimproved. In your packet, I'd like you to refer first to the survey following the application if you're following along. It's a black and white document that looks like this. This shows the property, and it has frontage along the dual highway and Beaver Creek Road. Next is a zoning map, and I think this will be useful to understand the basis of our contention that the 2012 zoning was a mistake. You'll see that south of Interstate 70 and all the way to the red line, the urban growth area boundary, all of the land in this area between I-70 and the urban growth area boundary was zoned HI, except for the blue area, that's the subject property, which was zoned RM. The reason for this configuration, I think you'll understand, is that the HI2 zoning was repealed and removed entirely from the ordinance, leaving the former HI2 classifications to other zoning designation. The county commissioners rejected residential transition zoning, RT zoning, in 2012, and instead, perhaps under the belief that multifamily residential was a viable option or would become a viable option, rezoned this property to RM. And therein lies the mistake. With the passage of time, it's become clear the city has dug in their heels, admitted in the letter from Kathy Marr, also included in this packet, that the property will not be served by public water and sewer provided by the city of Hagerstown anytime in the city's 20-year plan. So what we have is probably the clearest case of mistake. The grounds for mistake are set forth in our justification statement, which is included in the packet. We also have in the packet a graphic that looks like this. This shows the travel routes between this property and the two ramps on I-70 coming and going. It's a full cloverleaf intersection. And this graphic, a black and white, shows the current configuration of the intersection, the frontage of the property on the dual highway and on a portion of Beaver Creek Road. And the justification statement, which contains the basis of the mistake argument, was filed with our application and is included in the packet as well. This next graphic that you'll see, the color graphic, shows that the blue line, the MRGA, excludes this property, whereas the UGA, or urban growth area boundary, includes the subject property. The subject property is in white. We've also included in the packet extracts from the comprehensive plan, which deal with various aspects of this, in order to show that the proposed zoning classification is consistent with the plan. The mistake argument is fundamentally simple and straightforward. There's a necessary assumption when property is zoned residential multifamily in accordance with the purposes of the RM zoning district, that this property is suitable for a variety of high-density housing. There's an aspirational density, I believe, in the purpose clause of 12 units per acre. This necessarily assumed that at the time of development, water and sewer would be available to the site. When we first looked at this property, we were looking at it for its residential development potential. But we learned after talking to the city that there's no possibility of serving this property with public water and sewer from the city of Hagerstown. Hence, the zoning classification applied most recently, the RM zoning, was a result of a clear misapprehension on the part of the zoning authority. Development is simply not feasible for multifamily housing without public utilities. If we were to develop the property under the RM classification at the density contemplated in the RM zoning section, we would undoubtedly overburden the groundwater resources with hundreds of individual wells. The applicant proposes HI zoning for this property, and the HI zoning is appropriate and logical for a number of reasons. It's a large contiguous tract of land under single ownership. It has frontage on Beaver Creek Road and the dual highway with multiple access options. There is ample land for improvements or modifications to be made on Beaver Creek Road for any of the HI uses which may be contemplated. Interior access roads can be established to minimize, and the points of access can be located to minimize any adverse effect and achieve compatibility with the adjacent properties. It's in immediate proximity to I-70, and not just by a two-lane highway, but by a dualized four-lane highway. There's ample land for road improvements, setbacks, landscaping, and buffering. Development guidelines and controls are implemented by the site plan review and state highway requirements, since we're dealing with a state highway jurisdiction intersection and the dual highway. And the property is not feasible for development under its current zoning classification. The property is supported by the unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission, finding that the HI zoning classification is logical and appropriate for the site. With that, I'd like to have some comments, brief comments by our traffic engineer, but first by our civil engineer. So we'll proceed with them. Both these gentlemen were sworn.
Certainly. Good morning, everybody. My name is Josh Seawold from Dynamic Engineering Consultants. We were retained by the applicant to review the parcel Mr. Wantz explained in the beginning that at the initial interest of the project, we were looking at high-density residential housing. And after further review of various civil engineering items, including utilities and the property evaluation, it was determined that it was going to be unsuccessful to provide, as Mr. Wantz mentioned, over 12 units per acre. The property's 132 acres, that is hundreds and hundreds of units. Without public water or sewer, it would not be feasible to construct that type of yield that the zoning contemplated on this property. So when then looking at the overall zoning map and working with the applicant, we noticed that the surrounding parcels to the north, between our parcel, over Beaver Creek, and then as you get to the four-leaf clover interchange, we noticed that everything was zoned highway interchange. And when you pull the permitted uses, which is in the back end of Mr. Wantz's packet, it provides a wide range of different uses that could be contemplated here. So we further evaluated the property, again, 132 acres, and noticed the majority of it is farmland. Usable open space that could be contemplated for a host of different uses that could be supported on well and septic. So there are various uses in that zoning district that could be provided here with localized utilities on the parcel. We have noticed, of course, there is a stream on the parcel. We've investigated the limited areas of wetlands that are there, and we would not have submitted the rezoning application unless we were confident we could provide a host of different uses depending on what the applicant was looking to do. So we have an aerial map exhibit. Again, it's a GIS Google image located on the exhibit here, so you can just see the context of the area, the proximity to the four-leaf clover change, and of course we evaluated other aspects of the property. Mr. Nalepa here started to review the traffic items as well, and we hear the public has some concerns there. Our goal is to hopefully answer any questions that the commissioners, staff, or public have in regards to the feasibility of development of this parcel. Again, it is our position that the HI zone allows for a wide range of uses that could be supported on a very large upland portion of this property and will not negatively impact the surrounding area.
Mike Nalepa, I'm a traffic engineer with Street Traffic Studies, and I've been sworn as well. When the rezoning goes through, whatever use is proposed, we'll have to, we would have to do a traffic study. First step in that would be to contact the county and the State Highway Administration with a scoping form, which tells them what type of use is being proposed, the number of intersections that we anticipate they are going to require us to analyze, as well as trip generation, trip distribution, and that type of stuff. They will get back to us with their comments, and then basically we follow the guidelines that the county and the state both have, prepare a traffic impact study, submit that to both agencies. They review it, tell us the mistake, if we made mistakes, they point them out, we correct them, and get an approved traffic study. But the bottom line is that any deficiencies that we come up with, we have to correct. We would be obligated to include any approved developments that haven't been built yet, like Gaver Meadows. We have to apply a general growth rate to traffic in the area. So it's a fairly conservative picture at the end in terms of what the future traffic conditions are going to be. And again, the bottom line is the applicant is obligated to fix those prior to moving forward, anything that comes up.
I still have a couple clarifications. Is it okay to ask them now? Bill, you mentioned that maybe I took it out of context, but you said you could overburden the land with hundreds of wells. Well, that's not possible. I guess it would be in a sense if you want to go in there and start digging wells, but there's no scenario that would allow that. The only use that would be practical, since there's no water or sewer, would be, am I correct, 7 septics is it on that land? Is that correct? Would you agree with that? So there's not hundreds of wells to overburden the water supply. I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, theoretically, if developed at a density appropriate to the RM zoning, that would allow as
Yeah, but you wouldn't have
many
sewer
home
then.
sites.
You wouldn't have sewer.
Well, you'd have septics.
You only allowed 7.
I think you're referring to
A tier system,
some of the
right.
limitations,
Yeah.
perhaps outside the growth area as well.
Yeah, I mean, it could be 300 acres, be seven septics, correct? I just want to clarify it so everybody would understand, that's all. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be difficult.
No, I think the point supports the application
Yeah.
quite well. We didn't do a computation on what the development feasibility would be under the
Right.
RM zoning
I got
with
it.
the tier system limitations, but it would be, if there were public water and sewer, you'd be looking at 12 units per acre.
Sure you would.
On a developable area of probably 90 acres, excluding some of the non-developable areas and the street and common areas. That just isn't feasible, and the property, it has no economic viability as 7 farmlands.
And I think you were talking about the uses again with the zoning. The bottom line, if it does go highway interchange, if that would happen, there's a zillion things there could happen, whether good or bad. And it's sometimes you got to sort of visualize that, see how it changes the whole dynamics of everything. I'm not saying I'm open-minded right now, but zoning, could really in some situations change the whole landscape if you picture a 1.5 million square foot warehouse. I'm just talking out loud. So I want everybody to realize if that changes, there's quite a few pages here of what could happen there. So.
The analysis of the site, I think, would disallow a 1.5.
Well, 130 acres, you can get a pretty big old building on there.
Well, you've got some intermittent streams, you've got some.
I understand.
Wetlands, you've got, well, I'll let these.
I just wanted to clarify some of the stuff about what could happen and what couldn't happen, yeah.
I'll ask the civil engineer to respond to the question of what parts of the property might be developed in a hypothetical use, and what the limitations of the site are that might not permit such an intense development.
Thank you, Mr. Wants. And Commissioner Wagner, that's a good comment, that the property, although it's 130 acres, we do have a stream that bifurcates the land into 2 separate upland parcels.
Right.
The other parcel that is located on the southeastern side also does not have direct frontage onto the state highway.
Okay.
So you'd have to cross that stream in wetlands. So although warehousing is one of the permitted uses in there, there is a host of different uses that I think would be supportive of the highway interchange.
And don't get me wrong, I'm surely not against warehousing. I mean, I know everybody, but it's zoned for warehousing. Warehousing comes. You can't say you can't come here if I'm zoned for highway interchange. You can't say you stay away, we can't do it. But it's something different if you change the zoning and that was never there. That's what I was just trying to clarify.
Understood again, and I don't want to take the focus off the question. The position here is that we try to stay away from spot zoning, right? All of our neighbors to the west and to the north of our parcel across Beaver Creek are highway interchange, although right now that is not their current uses. They are some farmland and some residential. There are some commercial. We thought after looking at the master plan as well as the zoning ordinance, and because the highway interchange is flexible, that it would allow a different use to be supportive near interchange. The other thing too.
There could be a lot of uses. I understand. I really do.
And that site plan approval process would protect some of those aspects, whether it was traffic generation, buffers, stormwater management, and of course the county health department that will be thoroughly reviewing any type of well or septic facility.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Mr. Wants, does the applicant have any more to present?
Our presentation.
Okay,
May I ask a question? Is this the appropriate time?
oh, please go ahead.
Okay. Your justification statement, Mr. Want, seems to center around that there was a mistake in the zoning. When was this property zoned, last zoned? That's my first question.
2012.
2012, okay. Did the owners at that time object to the zoning classification?
Don't believe, I don't represent Agrimar. That was an investment group originally formed by Nick Gianaris. the former owner of the Airport Inn. I'm not sure they were aware of the change in zoning. I don't have any information on that.
Okay.
They're mostly European investors after Mr. Generis' death.
Okay. It looks like in the documents they had a local address at least to receive documentation. Can I ask Joe, our planning department, if we were to rezone someone's property, are they notified of a zoning change? Okay. Okay, so unfortunately, the actual end owner may have lived overseas, but it looks like they had a representative. It looks like some mail may have gone to the Sheraton even.
That's quite likely if Mr.
Okay.
Generis was living there.
Commissioner Kiefer, anything else? Any other questions?
Not at this time.
Thank you. We'll now move the public hearing for public comment. Thank you to the applicant. We will now move the hearing for public comment. Just a reminder, trying to limit your comments to 3 minutes, but I'm not going to cut you off at 3 minutes and 1 second. So I might ask you to summarize. For those who may have spoke during citizens' comments, I urge to request you to come back up again and put your comments into the public record. Anyone who wishes to testify now, please come forward, give us your name and address, and tell us what you would like to know. We'll start with the front row.
And if you could indicate that you took the oath and were sworn in, please do so.
Anyone on the front row like to testify? Please come forward, sir. Have you taken the oath? Your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Conrad Shefchuk. I live at 9816 Pembroke Drive. I did take your oath. So
Thank you.
My question is, I know we're having a lot of discussion about whether the zoning was correct and everything like that, but what's the need to change the zoning? I mean, other than the individual that owns it who wants to probably make some money putting in housing, and we can't do it because of the fact that the well's in the septic, although there's a lot of houses around it I would think could be built on that property without putting a strain on it. He now wants to switch to commercial so that he can probably get rid of the property. You've got a traffic expert here talking. Well, everybody in this room behind me was a traffic expert who drives the roads now and don't understand why we need this. If you read the headlines, housing seems to be the biggest need in the country. Warehouses, which we've talked about or have an abundance of, are overbuilt. Amazon's laying off people right now. What do we need in that area to change the zoning that you can't find heading into Hagerstown, which we're all trying to develop? We're going to the next intersection, which has gas stations, restaurants, Walmarts, and a lot of stuff that's going to be built across the street. So why do we need to change the zoning beyond concern? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the briefness. Is there anyone else wanting to come forward? First row, please come forward. Did you take the oath and state your name and address, sir?
I did not take the oath when we stood up, but
We'll
I'm
have to swear him in if you didn't take the oath.
I'm giving a personal opinion.
You ever have to be entered into the record, you'll have to take the oath, sir. So
Okay.
we'll do it real quick for you, accommodate you. If anyone else is going to, raise your hand. Or Krista?
Can you please raise your right hand?
Thank you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the responses given and statements made will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Appreciate your understanding, sir. Thank you.
All right. My name is James Franskevich. I live at 20514 Campbell Court, which is just off of Beaver Creek Road. I've lived in Hagerstown for 5 years now. I'm retired. It seems to me that when I look at the character of Hagerstown, and when I go out to the intersection of 70 and 81, you drive up 81 and it's all this type of development. I mean, I don't know what it is, 5 miles up to the Pennsylvania border, and it's all this type of development, trucks and warehouses. You go into Pennsylvania, and maybe another 5 miles, it's still that type of development. And having all that development along 81 for whatever it is, 10 miles, and there's open land and there's development potential up there, keeping all that confined into one area on one freeway seems logical to me. The other thing is There is an area, if you're going to go past to the west on 70, past 81, there's a lot of farmland that runs all the way out to Clear Springs. And that farmland could be developed with a frontage road into more truck-type warehouse operations, and there's no housing out there. So you would have farmland that changes into this type of development if you wanted to parallel 70 off to the west of 81. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Please come forward. Please say if you took the oath and your name and address, please.
I did take your oath.
Thank you, Mary Jo.
I'm Betty Jo Schiffler. I live at 20017 Beaver Creek Road, Hagerstown, Maryland. I'm here to voice my objection to the rezoning of this property. This piece of property is currently being farmed. It was zoned RM in 2012, but has not yet been developed. Now the owners are saying it was not zoned correctly and should be rezoned H1. This piece of property has no access to public water or sewer, and there are no plans to bring either under Route 70. After speaking with the fire marshal's office, since there is no public water, a water tower or tank would have to be added for either RM or H1 zoning. So periodically, tests would need to be done that would use more water and continue to put the residents' wells at risk. How much water would be wasted would depend on the capacity of the well and the size of the development. No progress was made for RM, so now it would seem they are wanting to jump on the warehouse bandwagon and make a quick buck. The amount of traffic that travels Route 40 and Route 70 is already very congested with the adding of the 2 warehouses on Howe Road that is to bring an estimated 1,200 more trucks daily. More industrial traffic is not acceptable to this area. When there are accidents on Route 70, which as we know is often, both Route 40 and Beaver Creek Road are a nightmare for travelers and residents to get anywhere. There are no plans by the State Highway Administration to update the outdated 70-40 cloverleaf pattern per the State Highway Administration in the next 20 years. Also, the idea of putting a light, which was discussed at their zoning meeting, there on Route 40 close to the Maryland Arsenal would only make matters worse, since traffic coming westbound down Route 40 would be coming down a hill and bears to the right, which would block the view of the light and would back up traffic. I have pictures of that view, and you can clearly see it would not work. And as previously stated, there was a terrible accident there last night for that very reason. Much of the area around this property is flood zone. I can only assume that the portion of the property would also be in a flood zone, which they did state was there were streams. Why did it take 10 years for the owners to decide the property should not be RM? Perhaps because they now realize the water and sewer will not be coming to the area, and multifamily houses would be very difficult and much more expensive for all the regulations for this type of housing with well and septic. Truth be told, this property was zoned incorrectly and should have been RA. The developer cannot tell residents he knows what's best for us, like he stated in the newspaper. They are not looking out for us. They are only concerned about making money. I have pictures. I also have a petition with over 225 signatures against this that I can give you. They talk about a traffic study being done. I have seen the traffic study that was done for the Howe Road. There was never anything done on the Route 70 40 interchange. And at that zoning meeting, there were only 3 people that voted for it. Everybody else abstained or weren't there. And I was told by one of them that this would be our chance, because we weren't very well organized then, to oppose it. So this is what we're trying to do. I would like to remind you, this is an election year, and if you vote, however you vote, for or against, please explain your vote so we know who we can depend on for looking out for us. And do I turn in the petitions to someone?
That's my question. Can she turn that petition in now as evidence? Is this the time?
Submitted as part of the record.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have pictures if you're interested in.
Bring that up. You're welcome to approach. Thank you for asking. Thank you very much, and we'll get that to Krista here. So you have your copies of this, correct? Okay.
Pictures.
If you want a copy, we'll get it to you. get hold of you. I'd like to put copies made so she has a record.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Please come forward. Did you take the oath? And name and address, please.
I did take the oath.
Thank you.
I'm Becky Jones, and I live on Redemar Drive, which is right off of Route 40. And I'm here this morning to object to the change in the zoning. Our entire neighborhood signed a petition, which I believe has been submitted to you, for all of us to object to this. We have well and septic, and it works very well for us. And I think that area could be divided into, they could be 3-acre lots or larger, or anywhere from an acre on, and you can have a well and septic. That is one issue, but another issue is the extreme traffic. As the Worthingtons mentioned and the gentleman from Pembroke and others have said, we are all pretty good traffic engineers because we know what it is when there's an accident on 70 and 40 and Beaver Creek are just jammed with traffic. You can't get out. So we don't want any more traffic. The residents, it's a nice community, it's a nice area, and we bought there because we liked it the way it was. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other citizens wishing to testify? Please come forward, whoever is up next. And
My name is Linda Worrell. I'm at 10818 Oak Ridge Drive in Halfway, and I took the oath.
thank you.
I would just like to clarify, obviously, I'm not from Beaver Creek area, but I am familiar with the area. And part of this whole thing is scary because it makes me wonder, is there an updated overall plan that you all would like to see executed with the development of this county? I've been here for 40 years. Was fascinated with it. I've seen the changes that have come. Not all of them have been good. I have a couple of questions other than just this specific incident. One, do anyone in the front of the room live near any of these properties that are being talked about? Do any of y'all have a warehouse being built in your backyard, and would that change your opinion? And I just wonder, why is it that, well, one, that these meetings are in the middle of the morning, because if you have a day-to-day 9-to-5 job, you can't attend. But my concern, as an example, with this property that they're talking of Beaver Creek, initially, they wanted to put 12 houses per acre. That's 3 houses on a quarter acre of land. I have a quarter acre property. There sure as heck is not room for 2 more people building a home on it. It's just concerning, and you times 12 houses per acre to 131 acres, whose brilliant idea was that concept? It doesn't make sense, and the people who are for it have mentioned the detrimental aspects of this plan. What exactly is their plan? Has there been any proposition other than what won't work as to why this particular property is all of a sudden in the spotlight and seems so desperately wanted by whoever it is that's purchasing it? Is there clarification as to what exactly they want to put on there now? That's my dilemma. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify? Sir, please, did you take the oath and name and address, please?
First of all, I did take the oath, gentlemen. My name is Roger Worthington. I live at 9775 Beaver Creek Church Road, Hagerstown, Maryland. I'm here to object to the rezoning application, RZ2107. And I have some questions. There was a comment that was a mistake made. Well, I can point out a lot of mistakes made in zoning that are pretty similar and based upon the area and land use. But let's get back to the specific objections that we all have here, you've before mentioned. You're taking some property that's zoned as it is to allow some dwellings to take place, if I'm correct, with septic systems and so on, which is similar to what's going on in Beaver Creek Road and other developments that have been done in the last 15 years. So I don't see any incompatibility there. So maybe it's not so much a mistake as we think it is, but it's there to protect what's happening now. And when these gentlemen that have obviously paid for lawyers and engineers and so on to tell you how good it's going to be, they didn't specifically tell you exactly what they were going to do on that interchange, if it's changed to interchange, highway interchange. So there's so many parameters. And from what I can see, profit is motivation, which is okay. It's good old USA. You have to make money. But at the cost of people's houses around whose property values will devalue. So they're making money, we're losing money. I hate to see that. I've been in that property I live in now, plus on Beaver Creek Road, for 53 years. I had an exception where my business was, and I stuck to my word that I would not change or expand the business due to an exception to zoning in 1973. Because I didn't want my neighbors to have a change in their lifestyle, and I can testify there's not been a change. I'm still the same 52 years now. So I want to say that it's possible that it wasn't quite the mistake that they're talking about as far as what it does to the community if you change it. That would be a mistake, believe me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify, please come forward. Did you take the oath? Name and address.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, I did take the oath.
Thank you, Gordy.
I'm Jordy Newman. I currently live at 20605 Beaver Creek Road. My family has been there for 46 years now. I recently moved back over Thanksgiving when my mother moved. I did not kick her out, contrary to popular belief.
It's on the record now.
I'm also here in opposition. I wish I sat closer to the front, so I'm not going to repeat, but a lot of great points have already been made. I did a little Google mapping from this location. There's a Sheetz 2.4 miles away. Martin's is 1.7 miles away. AT&T 1.7. As mentioned previously, there are truck stops on the exits before and after this one. This is just a classic trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. There's just too many barriers to this for it to make sense. I mean, we've talked about the traffic study and the clover relief on 70. I drive my son to school every day, and I get off of the dual highway onto Route 70, and it is extremely difficult to merge in a car, let alone a truck. And if there are improvements that are not made to that clover leaf, we're going to see even more accidents than we currently do on 70, which seems to be daily at this point. I'm also kind of concerned that we haven't heard any potential uses for the commercial development of this property. If you have visited Beaver Creek at any point, it is a very quiet community. You can see with the representation here, we're a very tight-knit community. A lot of us have barns. We don't need more storage. I think, you know, any further development here is really going to impact the cultural landscape of the community, and that's why people move to those areas. I mean, we don't want a lot of commercial uses around us. I don't mind driving to the other side of town to go to Lowe's or to something else. You know that coming in. We know those resources aren't there. So I would really question really how beneficial this is to the community and to the county in general, given the resources that are going to need to be utilized to make this work. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Welcome. Have you taken the oath? And name and address, please.
Yes, I've taken the oath. Ruth Singer Japson, 9728 Redamar Drive. I lived back there for 26 years, and I think we're at the point where we have to ask ourselves, what matters? Quality of life and safety matter. For who? For their citizens who are immediately affected by this change, or for the applicant, or for the people whizzing by the interstate that might need another McDonald's? There's a McDonald's down there, there's a Sheetz down there. And meanwhile, we have our nice little rural, quiet life that we all love. And I've been lucky enough to cross that road, in Route 40, for about 26 years on my walk. The traffic is pretty heavy, and they come fast down that road. Matter of fact, just last night, there was a big accident. Did anyone see that? Yeah, they sectioned off and they helicoptered a helicopter in. The cars go fast, and we don't want semi-trucks going fast down that road. We just want a nice, quiet life, which we all want, and we want safety. And I think that matters most for your residential citizens, not for applicants.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Have you taken the oath? And name and address, please. Thank you. Thank you.
I live on 9779 Beaver Creek Church Road.
You have to pull the microphone up a little closer.
Could you read the approved HI uses for that property that were suggested? You all have that list?
Would you repeat your name again? We couldn't quite hear
I'm
it.
sorry,
Name and address.
Laura Wright, WRIGHT.
Okay. We're here to listen to you, not to be interactions, so you're
I
welcome
was
to
so
state your question,
curious.
but go ahead and make your comments.
I was so very curious to hear what was, you had highlighted certain HI uses for that property. My comment is it drains into the Chesapeake Bay, and we Marylanders love crabs. We love our bay, and we know what we've done to try already to save the bay, to cut down trees and to destroy a stream and marshland does not seem like a good idea to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Going once? Anybody else?
Somebody's sitting there. She's right there.
I'm sorry.
She sat in the other chair. Look at this. He was looking in the middle
in
chair.
that chair.
To explain, I'm having some eye problems and that glare in the
Do I
background.
need to move over for you?
Please accept my apology.
Hi, my name's Christine Abbott. I live on 20540 Beaver Creek Road, and my husband wanted to join, but like someone else said, the timing of the meeting today has made it difficult for a lot of our neighbors in our area to join you. But he did write a letter and emailed it to the committee. And I just kind of wanted to reiterate, I've lived over there for over 20 years. I did move to the area because of the natural historicness. I believe Mr. Once is also the attorney that we obtained because of our schoolhouse that was being tried to, I guess, technically be rezoned, but electric company was trying to come in, and he actually won that for us. So here's another instance where we're trying to do more change to our area that doesn't fit our area. And like others have said, we have Sheetz down on 40. We have AT&T, we have 7-Eleven, and we have BP. We have storage facilities. I mean, we have what we already, or I guess, are being proposed to come into our area. It just, we don't need more. The crime that will come, the accidents that we see, and like was said, when the interstate does close down or have extreme congestion, we will have stop and go on 40. We will have stop and go on Beaver Creek. My husband has made note too, our hospital is not very far from us. So when we have anybody that would need to be transported from the distant county, which we see on Route 40 coming into our hospital now currently, this could be a life-death situation. We would have to definitely need to expand the roads to be able to handle that impact. The water and sewer, my neighbor behind me, it took 25 acres for him to get a perk. I don't know how many perks that they will be able to get, and I did not hear that they have already perked that land. And then with the Beaver Creek, the preservation of the Beaver Creek itself, there's quite a bit of a stir in our area back there because of the pristine waters that we have in Beaver Creek. It's just, from what I understand, very ideal. I can't see how a lot of this runoff would actually handle that. And then the character of the neighborhood, we seem to have places that come in, but they never seem to resemble the character. The landscaping never resembles the area. They just kind of get plopped and then they're here. It's one of those things, it's just, I feel like some of the commissioners, if you all live in the area, I think you would understand. If you don't, maybe it would be a good time to go out and visit our area just to see what we have. We do have businesses in our area. They've been there a long time. So to have something like this impact us, there's just too many of us are very opposed to it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify that I won't overlook? Sorry about that. Is there anyone else? All right. Have you already testified once, ma'am? She already testified once?
She was in citizen participation.
I don't think so.
But she hasn't testified.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. You've taken the oath. Please give your name and address.
I already took it.
Thank you.
It's Paula Worthington, 9775 Beaver Creek Church Road, and I also have a house on 20657 Beaver Creek Road. I've been in this county for all of my life, and so have my family. And I hate to see the change because that's just the way we are in Washington County. And I'm really sorry about the big expansion out there at the Herald Review. And it kills me to think that that could probably happen in our area. The quality of life we have in Beaver Creek is very good. I'm sure other parts of the county are just as good, if not better, maybe, when it comes to development. Anyway, I hope that you turn this down and that you let it alone. And that's it. Oh, by the way, don't have a floating zone come in and put something down in the middle of it, please. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to give testimony? Is there anyone else? Please come forward. Seeing none, we will proceed. The applicant now has the opportunity for a brief rebuttal, if desired.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein. One thing that should be noted, it's a common denominator of the individuals testifying this morning, is that we all have a common interest in compatible development. We all have a common interest in preserving what we have. We all have a common interest in utilizing wisely the highway interchange properties that we have. We're not making any new interchanges. There are a few areas adjacent to our 11 highway interchanges in Washington County which remain undeveloped, and we should plan and use those wisely. Because most of the individuals who testified this morning are not on the south side portion of Beaver Creek Road, on which this property has frontage, but most of them are on the north side beyond the auto dealerships and going off on Beaver Creek Road toward the community of Beaver Creek and toward Pemberton and the other developments, very nice developments which have occurred there. I'd like to ask Mr. Nalepa to comment on the potential effect of a development of this subject property on the properties on the northern portion of Beaver Creek Road, where many of these comments came from.
Do I state my name again, or just?
Go ahead while you mention
Mike Nalepa with Street Traffic Studies. Yeah, there will be traffic that goes up to the north towards Funkstown on Beaver Creek Road, but it'll be a small percentage of the traffic generated by the site. The vast majority is going to go right to Dual Highway and onto 70. So from a local impact point of view, this is a pretty ideal setting for this type of a development, or for a highway interchange type of development.
Now, you've commented on the traffic going toward Funkstown. That would be along our boundary of the property and west. Crossing the dual highway, there's another portion of Beaver Creek Road north of the dual highway. Comment on any potential impact on that.
I can't imagine anybody crossing dual highway to go on that side, unless somebody's working at whatever is being built there. But there's no point in going across there because you're not going to go anywhere.
Now, a lot of the individuals would be accessing from their homes the dual highway and the road to Hagerstown and the short path up to Interstate 70 to the ramps. Coming down from the north side past the auto dealerships that are also developed on well and septic. But there are also people that are coming toward this intersection of Beaver Creek Road and the Dual Highway from what really is the heart of the Beaver Creek community. Some of the witnesses, Mr. Newman, for example, I believe would be coming from further out Route 40 east, traveling westward toward Hagerstown. What would be the potential effect of the development of this property in HI zoning classification on people trying to reach Hagerstown, coming from east of Hagerstown out by the Beaver Creek or I-66 or Route 66X, the next exit east of this interchange?
Well, because currently, if you're on 40, you've got right-of-way, or you've got the right-of-way, so you're not going to be impacted much at all. However, I think for people that are on Beaver Creek Road trying to access the dual highway, or even from the auto dealership, the State Highway Administration has very stringent rules for when you can put a traffic signal in. I mean, there's delay there now if you're trying to get on the dual highway. And it's only going to get, whether this project goes forward or not, that's just going to get worse. Traffic on dual highway is going to increase. It's going to be harder for the people to get onto it, and it could be forever before you get the kind of volumes that you're going to need to satisfy the state to where they'll allow a signal there. This project has got a lot of frontage on Beaver Creek Road. It's got a lot of frontage on dual highway. They have the ability to, well, certainly mitigate, if not correct, a lot of the issues from a traffic standpoint that are going on at that intersection right now. This is probably one of the best opportunities the residents along Beaver Creek Road have of making things better.
There's no questions from the audience, I'm sorry. So please continue, applicant.
Let me turn to Mr. Sewell. Thank you, Mr. Love. What opportunities to improve Beaver Creek Road exist in the development of this property?
Mr. Wantz, could you speak up a little louder?
I'm sorry,
That's,
direction.
pardon me. Thank you, folks.
What opportunities to improve Beaver Creek Road would accompany the potential development of this property if it were rezoned to HI?
Certainly, at 100, again, Josh Seawold from Dynamic Engineering. At 131 acres, like Mr. Nalepa mentioned, we have adequate frontage on Beaver Creek and the dual highway. So at 131 acres, we could dedicate land to Beaver Creek for a potential turn lane, a widening, adequate shoulders, and some other aspects that come along with redevelopment and new development. So some of the concerns that you hear actually get, as Mr. Nalepa testified to, sometimes at least mitigated, if sometimes not corrected. And because we have the adequate land space from a civil engineering standpoint, we can correct some of those items. And of course, along with any development in the county, you will have your appropriate stormwater management facilities, utilities, buffers, landscaping, and other aspects.
Thank you. That's all we have.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant right now? Hearing none. Public hearing is now concluded.
I wanted to make one comment, Jeff, before you concluded. I am on the planning commission. I do not vote when it comes before us, so I have not voted on that yet.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments, questions right now before I close the public hearing?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, that's what I'm asking for you. Thank you, Wayne.
Some of the residents have asked, and I'm kind of curious too. I haven't heard a use. I know you want to change the zoning, but why do you want to change it? What use do you have in mind? What are you planning to do there?
Real quick, real estate development takes time. I personally have been working on this property for over 18 months. To bring the property to market for a potential use, there truly is not an idea right now. The reason we are seeking the HI is because it allows a varying amount of uses that this applicant, who is a real estate developer, thinks they could attract towards a dual highway system and in a very close proximity to the interchange. There are various different uses in there. You can contemplate self-storage, you can contemplate gas trucks, low retail. As you've heard throughout, there are limited utilities, so you will not be able to have a huge density of development. No one with a high amount of employees could be supportive here because the septic facility could not be supportive. So I'm sorry, Commissioner Kiefer, I don't have a specific use that I could say that this real estate developer is looking for, but there will be limits even inside of the approved HI that could be contemplated here from an engineering standpoint, and the applicant's aware of that. But they are seeking it because the current zoning does not allow for any development regarding beyond just a couple of homes and agricultural.
I just piggybacking on what Wayne was just talking about, I think that's one of the concerns I have. We're sometimes asked to make decisions without having a lot of details about the decisions. And so, anyway, I think it's important that any developer be able to come before us and say, this is a plan. This is what we expect to do. It's fair to the people and it's fair to us when we're making the decision, so.
Any more questions before I close the?
May I supplement
please do.
the answer to Mr. Kiefer's previous question? As I indicated in our appearance before the Planning Commission, this property originally drew the interest of the applicant because of its multifamily residential development potential. This is an area in which this developer has a direct interest. However, seeing that it was adaptable to other uses with rezoning, they decided to maintain their interest but shift the zoning in the absence of city water and sewer, and to acquire the property. And they have acquired the property. They've just acquired the property recently. They've just closed on the property. If you understand.
Keep speaking up. I'm sorry. The audience can't hear you. Maybe pull the microphone closer.
If you
yeah, there you go.
If you understand this process of someone who purchases the property, if they're going to then go out and seek interest on it, someone as a prospective end user, for example, the first thing the end user would want to know is what's the zoning classification of the property? What may it be used for? So I guess you could say this is analogous to a little bit of a catch-22 situation. We can't solicit the end user for this property. We know some types of uses that it's adaptable to, and those have been provided to you in the handout, that the HI uses that might be feasible without public utilities. But it's the applicant's progression in this to seek the rezoning before identifying the potential uses or the potential end users or purchasers. We just simply aren't at that point yet. We have to ascertain the zoning before we can identify an end user. And the market will identify the end user more than any other factor. It may be that auto dealerships would be interested in the same interchange as they were historically in another quadrant of the interchange north of 40. But this is not the type of situation where somebody has a specific project in mind and is seeking to change the zoning to allow that project. There's a lot of work and consideration and marketing to be done, and more work for these gentlemen to do once we have identified a viable use for the property.
All right, that just generated another question. I got to ask one more question. Is that okay? So just to get everybody on the same page, this property was purchased by the new owners 2021, correct?
No, it was just closed April the 11th.
April the
We
11th.
applied under a contract with the consent of Agrimar, the owner at the time.
So correct me if I'm wrong. It's okay. It closed recently. We'll give it that, okay?
April the 11th.
Okay, April the 11th. And was anything done prior to the closing to try to, I mean, why would you buy the property, close on it, and then, I'm confused, Bill. I mean, just thinking that you can buy this property and change the zoning. I'm not trying to be rude, but I just, as a real estate, I would have had my ducks in order before I bought a property and then came. I guess that's what's confusing me. Am I the only one thinking that way, or?
All right,
I don't know. I'm good.
Applicant,
I just wanted to make sure we had the purchase dates right, so.
Does the applicant have a response to that? I'd like to move forward and close the meeting if there's no other response.
That's the sequence chosen by the applicant.
I understand. I do understand. I'm just want to make sure I was correct on that line of thinking.
All right, commissioners, have any other comments or questions? Hearing none, the public hearing is now concluded and the record is closed. Commissioners, we can take this under advisement or a decision today. Thoughts or comments are welcome.
So if we take this advice, if we decide today.
Quiet in the audience a little bit. We still gotta, thank you.
If we
Be
make
quiet.
make a decision today.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Folks, the meetings,
Hey, guys.
we need everybody to be quiet. Our regular meetings, not stick around here. The commissioners may discuss, may take action. Don't want you to miss it, so hang loose a minute.
So if we make a decision today, we need a consensus as to how we want to move forward?
You can make a consensus today, or you can take it for advisement later. Mr. Downey, would you qualify that?
You can take this matter under advisement and discuss it at a later date, or you may discuss it now and come to a consensus. What you cannot do is formally adopt a decision, because the decision needs to be prepared based on what the consensus of the board is for formal adoption at a later date.
I mean, I can only speak for my position. After reviewing the information and everything, without a shadow of a doubt, there was no mistake made in the zoning of this property back in 2012 when it was zoned. I mean, I know what my position is going to be. I could move forward today.
I'd like to join that consensus to deny the zoning. I think if there was a mistake in zoning, maybe it was overzoned. If water and sewer can't supply water to high-density housing, I think it was overzoned. So I think the mistake they're seeking may be in the opposite direction.
Is there another?
I would also add that somebody asked to explain their vote. We are charged with being the eyes and ears of the people and the voices of the people, not our own. And so in this case, I would also agree that we should deny this.
Commissioner Wagner?
I think, you know where I stand. I agree with the consensus.
I agree with the consensus. So there you go, Mr. Downey. There's your direction. Consensus to deny.
Thank you.
Commissioners, that concludes everything. Can we have a 5-minute recess before we move forward with Mr. Bariano? Please excuse
Yes,
us for
please.
that. 5-minute recess. back, everybody. Reconvened. Next on our agenda is the post-legislative review from Mr. Bruce Bariano. Please introduce yourself in the matter, sir. And thank you for your patience.
My pleasure. Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the Commission, Council. For the record, Bruce Bariano, Annapolis, Maryland, registered lobbyist for Washington County. First, let me once again thank all of you collectively and individually for the privilege and opportunity this past legislative session of representing the county and working for the county's interests, which I've had the pleasure of doing for several years, and I thank you very, very much. It's an honor. I came up here this afternoon to discuss some matters and also make myself available to any questions now that the legislative session is over. As you all know, the legislative session that adjourned is the conclusion of the 4-year term of the current members of the Senate and the House and the legislature, and a new legislature will be elected for another 4-year term. I know you're familiar with elections, and that term will start in 2023, starting the second Wednesday in January, going for the next 4 years. I'd like to discuss a couple of matters, and as I said, please feel free to ask me any questions that you would like. I'm here at your disposal. Budgetarily, in terms of funding, it was a very good year for Washington County. Just to recap a couple of things, in the Hagerstown area, the Hagerstown Aviation Museum received $5 million from the governor's capital budget. The Washington County Museum of Fine Arts received $3.5 million, $1 million this year, and a pre-authorization of $2.5 million next year. Hagerstown Field House received a $3 million appropriation, $1 million this year and $2 million pre-authorized for next year. Washington County Boys and Girls Club received a $2 million appropriation for this year. Washington County District Court will be getting $1 million for renovations. Hagerstown Fire Department, $500,000. Clara Barton Memorial, $250,000. And the Robert W. Johnson Community Center, $500,000. I know you all read that the state was flush with a lot of money. There was a lot of capital money, and Washington County and the Hagerstown region did very well in that regard. One thing that I know is very dear to Washington County is an improvement, but unfortunately not enough. I worked very closely with MACO. MACO worked very, very hard on this, and that's the issue of the highway user fund. There was victory, but not the victory that really that should have been, quite candidly. The governor put a bill in for full funding. That was rejected by the legislature. And for Washington County, the FY23 funding should be about $2.1 million. Without the bill having passed, that was passed by the legislature, it would have dropped to $1.3 million. But with the bills passing, there is a bump for the county to FY26. It'll go up to $3.6 million. Not satisfactory. I mean, very, very frustrating. I really had the pleasure of working very closely with MACO. MACO worked very, very hard on this. I'm not just saying that. They really, really did. And with all the money that was available and the inequity and the equity of this, you all know better than I that the change originally was supposed to be temporary, and it was far from temporary, and to get it back has been very, very difficult. I just want you to bear in mind on this issue, though, that under the bill that was passed and will go into law, there's a cliff effect, and that is in fiscal 28. If nothing passes, the funding will drop down to $2.5 million for Washington County. So it's something that I personally think the legislature, the new legislature coming in, should start right away, not wait till FY28. and really further straighten it out. As you know, and I'm not trying to get political, you're going to have a whole new administration. For the first time, really, in my recollection, in Maryland, you're going to have at the same time a brand new governor, a brand new attorney general, and a brand new comptroller. It's very significant. It's not really in anyone's memory for quite a long period of time. And as you know, you'll have a new legislature, but I would hope Washington County, and I'm sure you will, working with MACO and directly, will continue to work on this. It's just, it's wrong. It's a breach of a promise, a breach of a commitment, respectfully, when the changes were made by the state during a previous administration. Not the Hogan administration, the previous administration. And I really thought that the governor was going to be able to restore full funding, but the legislative leaders just wouldn't do it. They just would not do it at all. So I know that's very, very, very much on your mind. I also sent you, and you've received throughout the session, and the final one of bills that I thought I was tracking for Washington County, some local bills, some alcoholic beverage bills, agriculture bills, and I've given you a final outcome of that legislation. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. There was redistricting, of course, which has gone into effect with the primary coming up in the general election, and it has somewhat shifted Washington County's boundaries a bit, but nothing as severe as it otherwise could have been, and was done in some other jurisdictions.
Commissioners, any questions, comments for Mr. Buriano?
I get paid to be abused, so ask me anything you want, really.
Just forgive our delay getting you to the podium.
No problem.
Thank you for your patience. Hearing none, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much again. Thank you for the privilege and the pleasure. Thank you. Have a good day.
Next on our agenda, National Public Works Week. Mr. Eisman, please introduce yourselves and your guest.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us, Commissioners. Andrew Ashelman, Director of Public Works.
Jamie Dick, Deputy Director of Public Works, Parks and Recreation.
Zane Rao, Deputy Director of Highways.
So thanks for having us. We wanted to take some time this week to recognize that it is National Public Works Week, and the theme is Ready and Resilient. Just a little recap and overview here. Washington County Public Works includes the following departments. Currently, Airport is under Public Works. We have Highways, Parks and Recreation, Transit, and Buildings, Grounds, and Facilities. And each of these departments serves the citizens of Washington County and works towards making our community a great place to live and work. So this morning, I do have several Public Works employees that I, along with other Public Works directors, want to recognize. So we'll go through some of the departments and highlight some accomplishments here. So under Public Works, I'd like to first recognize in our office, we have Christine Casey. She's the office manager for Public Works. And during COVID, she was instrumental in coordinating additional cleaning services and managing the contractor, Beck and Call, who stepped up and performed a great service for us. When we heard about an opportunity to submit for reimbursement through FEMA, Christine gathered the information and completed the application. So as a result of her efforts, we are proud to say that Washington County will be reimbursed for over $170,000 in additional COVID-related cleaning costs. So thank you for her efforts there. Moving on to transit. Like many small urban transit systems, Washington County Transit continues to experience greater demand for service year after year. And so with the goal of making transit easier to use, Washington County Transit sought to improve performance. So we knew we needed to do something more in the way of scheduling trip requests for demand response riders. And so the days of pencil and paper went digital. So Washington County Transit transitioned to automated trip notifications and callbacks to demand response riders, fixed route performance tracking, on-bus, voice and visual location announcements, and a mobile app known as Route Shout. So Route Shout allows users, it's app-based, to view a dynamic map for real-time bus tracking. You can pull it up, see where your bus is. You can check on route schedule departure times, find your closest bus, as well as receive predicted arrival times to locations along the route. And so none of this could occur without the spearheading effort of Kim Thomas and Cindy Bowden in our office back here, ladies, as well as input from other transit staff members. So Kim and Cindy, Kevin, who's not able to be here, and I thank you for the job that you do every day, and kudos as well to all the transit employees who maintain this transportation service for the citizens of Washington County. Moving on to the airport. The Hagerstown Regional Airport is not only a hub for flights, but manages a large portfolio of tenants and rental properties, which include hangars, office spaces, residential, and ag leases, which comprise approximately 75% of all airport revenue. So we have Amy Blair over here, office associate, and when she was tasked with streamlining the leasing process, she was very instrumental with establishing an organized system to reduce the turnover time and keep facility staff informed. She has been nominated for recognition by airport staff as someone who is eager to learn and makes those around her better. So thank you to Amy and all staff for your contributions for making the airport the gem that it is. Moving on to buildings, grounds, and facilities. This department and its employees have been especially busy completing projects to improve the quality of life for Washington County citizens. Over the past year, they've completed many projects, and 2 maintenance trades worker employees, we have Ernie Reese and Kenny Carrier, in the back here, have been at the center and up to the challenge each time. It's impressive, the list of projects they have undertaken in the past year, along with other coworkers, and I was kind of surprised when you put it all to paper here to see that list, so I'll go down through it, and this has really all been accomplished here. So we have the election board building demolition and remodel, Ag Center multi-purpose building kitchen demo and remodel, Marty Snook Park natural playground construction. The election board moved the warehouse and equipment from out at Ico Way to Virginia Avenue. Administration building budget and finance office construction. Courthouse law library demo and remodel. Courthouse civil area break room demo and remodel. The senior center fitness center fit out of the existing outbuilding. They've undertaken park bathroom demo and renovations at Penmar, Chestnut Grove, Clear Spring, Camp Harding, and Devil's Backbone parks. And one of the largest projects, the admin annex, which we call the permits building, the demolition and the fit out for 747 at Northern Avenue. And last and most recently, golf course clubhouse, bathroom demo, and renovation. So that was a lot of work by not just those 2, but many in that department. So thank you for your work and all department employees on your contributions. Turn it over to these 2 gentlemen. Zane, you want to go?
Yeah, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the employees at the Highway Department for their continued effort in trying to, service the residents of the county. I think we've got about 18 to 1,850 lane miles of road, counting turn lanes, main line. So, they're striving, we're striving to do the best we can, and they're all definitely appreciated. Just wanted to thank them.
All right, I want to thank the board. Definitely 3 years ago, you guys reorganized, you put recreation with parks, and that did make sense, so we enjoy being Parks and Rec now. We appreciate Andrew's leadership. He's been great to work with. We've been really busy, and he touched on some of those projects, and I want to recognize definitely Danny Hickson, who could not be here today, with his staff, Dave Brooks and Pam Boyd. We did playground replacement at Camp Harding Park, Clear Spring Park, Marty Snook Park, Penmar, Chestnut Grove, and Regional. The dog park opened up last November. We're excited about that. And of course, Marty's Mystical Woods, you guys were out there in August for that, and that's been a hit in the park. Our goal for Marty Snook Park was to add many amenities that when a family does come in there, you could do many things, and we're heading in that direction there as well. And of course, the bathroom replacements and the roof replacements, which Andrew touched on. Summerfest is coming up this June 4th. It's at Marty Snook Park. I'd like to invite all you guys to be there. It's from 9 to 12. We're going to have a radio station out there, so on the rec side, I want to recognize Rob Holsinger and all the rec staff on all the different programs that we offer through the pandemic. It was exciting to get through the pandemic. It was really a tough thing to do. This summer, we're excited about getting back into the schools, so I appreciate this Board of County Commissioners work with the school board to let us back in. So that's going to really help out as well with that. We've done a lot of youth sports clinics, golf, basketball, volleyball, soccer, and pickleball. Also with the pickleball courts, Dave and Andrew and Pam, we added a lot of pickleball courts to the parks, which is a good thing because everybody seems to be enjoying that sport now. And then also public-private partnerships that we've worked with many different businesses in the county, Starland Skate Center, Pediatric Movements, Virginia Avenue Skate. So we've been doing a lot of working with a lot of private businesses. And then also we have all of our sports leagues this summer, which is going to be all back. We're doing a golf league out of Black Rock. We have volleyball at Dow's Woods Park, and then boys and girls basketball at the college, which we have 46 teams signed up already. So it's good that we're getting through the pandemic and things are opening up and we're getting people out recreating. And I want to also recognize Pam and Rob for graduating from the MRPA Leadership Program this past April.
That's the Maryland Parks and Recreation Association.
Yes.
Andrew, does that conclude? We'd
Yes,
like
that's
to do
all
a
right. Thank you.
presentation. Celebration this week. The Board of County Commissioners of Washington County do hereby recognize the Division of Public Works for providing the citizens of Washington County with proactive, cost-effective services that maintain a safe and reliable road infrastructure, park system, office facilities, public transportation that enhances the quality of life in our community. Your work affects the daily lives of each and every one of us, and is greatly appreciated by all. Congratulations, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank Jamie. Sky, Paul, bring everybody up. We can get, we get a group picture up here, do this one real quick.
Yeah, can we do this one
and then
first?
we'll get everybody up. All right, now everyone join us up front, Commissioner.
Yes, you're good to go. Thank you.
All right, let's keep this train moving. Yeah, we're almost 2 hours behind, hour and a half behind. Friggin' people do our agenda. I don't know who does our agenda and allows 10 minutes for public hearing.
Well, all right.
That was a mistake.
All right, everyone, back
was a
to the
mistake.
agenda. Next up, FY23 Police Recruitment Retention. Mr. Cody Miller, please introduce yourself and the guest there and subject.
Good afternoon. Rachel Souter, Senior
Okay,
Grant
Rachel.
Manager, Office of Grant Management.
Cody Miller with Washington County Sheriff's Office.
The Washington County Sheriff's Office is requesting approval to submit an application and accept funding as awarded from the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth and Victim Services, requesting $38,295 in funding to support the FY23 Police Recruitment and Retention Program. This program provides incentives to retain qualified sworn law enforcement officers, including purchases of gear that otherwise is not covered in local budgets. The Sheriff's Office is requesting this funding in order to provide all deputies with a tactical rolling gear bag. The Office of Grant Management has reviewed the grant funding guidelines. The performance period is for 1 year, and there's no match requirement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second.
Sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. Thanks for
you.
waiting. Next up, intergovernmental cooperative purchase, Brandy Eric, and Dave Chisholm. I see yours now. Please introduce yourselves in the matter.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brandy Noggle, buyer in the purchasing department.
David Chisholm, Deputy Director of Emergency Services.
The first recommendation I have for you this morning is for the intergovernmental cooperative purchase, INTG 22-0087, personal protective equipment for the Division of Emergency Services. Move to authorize by resolution for the approval of the purchase of 39 sets of personal protective equipment. This is coats and pants for the Division of Emergency Services from MES, Municipal Emergency Services, out of Rockville, Maryland, at the contracted unit price based on the Fairfax County, Virginia contract. The coats are $1,919.70 each, totaling $74,868.30, and the pants are $1,254.36 each, totaling $48,920.04, for a grand total of $123,788.34. Public Local Law of Washington County grants authorization to the county to procure goods and services under another jurisdiction's contracts as long as we abide by the same terms and conditions. The county will benefit with a direct cost savings on this, on these pants and coats because of the economies of scale the contract has leveraged. And there is funding available in the department's operating budget for this purchase.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next up, bid award PUR 1543. Welcome back, Brandy. Please introduce yourselves in the matter.
Brandy Noggle, buyer in the purchasing department.
George Schweitzer, Assistant Superintendent, Black Rock Golf Course.
The next recommendation I have for you this afternoon is the bid award PUR 1543, grounds maintenance chemicals for various county departments. Move to award the contract to the responsible companies with the responsive lowest bid that met the specifications for each chemical, as indicated on the bid tab summary. There were tie bids for items number 13, 20, 31, and 35. Therefore, it is required for the chemicals to be awarded based on a lot drawing here today, and I will come up and ask for you to draw, if you would, for me today. The county did accept bids on the chemicals April 20th, 2022. The invitation to bid was posted on eMaryland Marketplace website, the county's website, and the local newspaper. 19 companies downloaded the document, and we did receive 4 bids. The contract provides chemicals for the Black Rock Golf Course, the County Highway Department, and the Department of Water Quality. The City of Hagerstown may also use this bid. The contract period is for a 1-year term beginning July 1st, 2022, ending June 30, 2023. And if I could have 4 of you guys maybe draw from the lots I have prepared today. Wayne, I got item number 13. This is Headway. So Headway will be awarded to Genesis Turfgrass. Got item number 20, which is Provon.
One.
Item number 20, Provon, will go to Nutrient Ag Solutions. Skip you, Jeff. Sorry.
That's okay.
I have item number 31, which is Signature Extra, and this had 2 ties.
Is that one?
That's one. So item number 31, Signature Extra, will go to Helena Agri Solutions. And last one, Charlie, we got number 35, which is the Emerald, had a 4-way tie, so you can draw out a lot of 4. Okay, so Emerald will go to Genesis Turfgrass. Thank you for that. So again, we're looking for approval to award the 37 chemicals as presented today.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, bid award, PUR 1540. Brandy and Dave Mason, please introduce yourselves in the matter.
Brandy Nagelbauer in the Purchasing Department.
Dave Mason, Deputy Director, Solid Waste.
The next recommendation I have for you this morning is the bid award PUR 1540 for leachate hauling at the county landfill. Move to award the requirements contract for the hauling of leachate from the county landfill to AC&T out of Hagerstown, Maryland, based on the responsible bidder with the lowest total lump sum of $470,000. The bid was advertised in the local newspaper, listed on the state's e-Maryland Marketplace website and the county's website. The contract is for a one-year period, tentatively to begin July 1st, 2022, with the county to renew up to 2 additional one-year periods. The first contract period will end June 30, 2023. The county does not guarantee a minimum or maximum of cost or material for this contract. 16 companies downloaded the document, and we received 3 bids, one of which was considered non-responsive. And I want to add that that bid was considered non-responsive because they couldn't meet the equipment requirements on the contract, they didn't submit their bonding, and they did not register with the state of Maryland. We gave them additional 2 weeks because they were a new vendor, but they failed to provide any of the information that we needed. You'll see there is a history of gallons for each location, and funding is available in the operating budget for this department.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
First and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Next up, please introduce yourselves to the matter. Welcome back, Brandy.
Brandy Nagelbauer in the Purchasing Department. The last recommendation I have for you this morning is the bid award PUR 1544 trash removal services for county facilities. Move to award the bid for trash removal services at county facilities to the responsible bidder, Republic Services out of Hagerstown, Maryland, who submitted the lowest total sum of $67,698.60. The contract for the trash removal services are for 28, I think I have a typo there, 28 county facilities. The bid was advertised on the e-Maryland Marketplace Advantage website, the county's website, and the local newspaper. 9 companies downloaded the document, and we received 1 bid. The term of the contract is for a one-year period, with the county to renew up to 4 consecutive additional one-year periods. And there is funding in various departments for this service.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
First and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, Strykerberger. Please introduce yourself in the matter.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rich Eichelberger, Director of Permits and Inspections, here today to reach a consensus concerning the Building Excise Tax Ordinance, Section 7.08 Special Provisions Sunset. The Board approved adoption of Revision 12 of the Building Excise Tax Ordinance in September 2019, which included several text amendments, including a clause exempting certain building conversions from the excise tax until July 1, 2022, the sunset clause. This action extended the exemption of 2 changes in use construction types from the assessment of the excise tax. Section 7.08 of the Building Excise Tax Ordinance reads as follows: 7.08 Special Provisions Sunset until July 1, 2022, and retroactively to July 1, 2019, the provisions of paragraphs 7.03 and 7.04 shall not be given effect until that date when the existing non-residential structure is subject to construction pursuant to a building permit that converts its use. The building excise tax is $0 on all existing gross square footage. Any additional construction will be taxed at the amount of $0 per square foot. This paragraph 7.08 shall be abrogated and of no further force or effect on July 1, 2022. Staff seeks direction from the board concerning the expiration of the sunset clause. Allowing the sunset clause to expire would result in the following building permits being subject to excise tax. 1, conversion of non-residential non-retail to non-residential retail at the rate of $1 per square foot of the first 15,000 square feet of gross square footage and $3 per square foot of any gross square footage over 15,000 square feet. And 2, conversion of non-residential retail to non-residential non-retail at $1 per square foot of gross square footage. To extend the sunset clause, the board would need to establish new expiration date and amend the building excise tax ordinance accordingly. Alternatively, the board could reach a consensus to either allow the sunset clause to expire, making the conversion subject to the tax, or make the specific conversions exempt from the tax altogether. The fiscal impact, since July 1 of 2019, the county has not collected approximately $70,000 in excise tax due to the Section 7.08 exemption.
All right, in plain terms, what's not getting the $1 a square foot because of the sunset tax?
The conversion of non-residential, non-retail.
Non-residential, so no residential.
Non-residential.
So it is residential, okay.
Non-residential, non-retail to non-residential retail, or the conversion of non-residential retail to non-residential non-retail. So.
Can you give us an example of someone who took advantage of this?
I can't think of one specifically, but where you may have a commercial establishment such as a mercantile being converted to a commercial, falling kind of in the same categories. So where it comes into play is whether it's going from retail to residential or vice versa.
Why did we do that in the first place?
I am not sure. Kirk may be able to. Are you asking about why did we do this with the sunset clause?
Yeah.
Okay.
What created, I don't remember.
I don't have the history for that part of it. Other than probably when it was during an economic downturn, is my assumption.
So would this have been why when, in 2017, I believe, I had an office on Locust Street and I turned it into a residential? Is that why I paid a fee on that?
That would have been the city.
That would be in the city, so that would not have been a county requirement.
Yeah, but that's basically what we're talking about here. When you switch
similar
from one use to another, you pay a fee to switch.
You mentioned $78,000.
Right. Well, I said 70, but it's probably a little higher than that now since the ARF was
Okay, so what was the $70,000?
was fees that were not collected by the county because of the sunset, because of that exemption.
So that would have been from what year to what year?
July 1 of 19.
So from 19 to this coming July, we've lost $70,000 in revenue.
For those that those would have fit into for conversion, yes, sir.
Okay, so in return, what was the county's benefit or the people's benefit from not, so it actually saved the people money?
Yes, there was a cost savings for the developer owner.
My recommendation would be that we just do away with this tax. Somebody shouldn't be taxed just because they want to change the use of a property they own. And we're talking about a minimal, we haven't been collecting it for 2 years, and.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
How long?
Well, what I was going to say is this is just to eliminate this section of the ordinance.
Oh, okay.
Not the tax altogether.
Right.
No, there's $1 a square foot still excise tax, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it said here, make the specified conversions exempt from tax.
That would be for
altogether.
these two.
So
two
that would be
sections.
my comment then.
So are you seeking for this to be exempted in perpetuity, or do you want another sunset clause?
For staff, I don't think it really makes a difference. We just need the
It
direction.
could be either
from-
or.
We just need the direction from the board on how you want the staff to proceed with this, whether.
Yeah, you have three options.
Right, so
You're,
it's either going to sunset, right?
want to let this expire, or if you want to remove these two altogether. Kirk, if you have any further.
Yeah, I mean, the options are do nothing, allow the sunset date to come and pass, and then the next time somebody is doing one of these conversions, they will be subject to the tax at $1 a square foot. The other option is to direct staff to either extend the sunset or to remove these types of conversions from the tax altogether, either of which would require an amendment to the building excise tax ordinance, which is why we're here today asking for direction.
Well, I guess that's why I asked the question, why did we ever start it? I mean, why did we have anything called a sunset?
Because it's government, it gives them more money.
So we could remove this section, 708.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look at the files for the history. There was an exemption prior to 2019. What happened in 2019 was to allow to continue to occur what was already occurring. I do not recall why, when the prior version of the excise tax ordinance was drafted, that exemptions were in there, but presumably that was to provide for economic stimulus and allow for these types of conversions to take place.
Yeah, I don't know. We seem to complicate everything sunset clause now we got to deal with. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. I don't know. Maybe
So
there's
if
a
we
good
were to
reason.
make this a permanent fix, if a future board decided to start charging, would they, what steps would they need to move forward to start charging?
Probably.
They'd have to amend the ordinance, right?
Right.
They'd have to amend the ordinance.
Well, I would be in favor of making the excise tax zero in perpetuity for this particular type of project.
For clarification, for these two sections.
Yes.
Yep, is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to remove the sunset clause.
Or a second, and then we
Yeah,
go
I'll
to
second.
discussion?
Well, you're removing it and exempting, or taking it out, right?
Let's get a second and go to discussion, since there was a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, please. Thank you.
Ask the question again.
So it would be, the motion would be based on make the specified conversion exempt from the tax altogether.
Well, technically, the motion would be to direct staff to prepare a change to the ordinance that would allow for.
That sounded much more professional.
Is that okay? You guys
Because,
first
I mean,
Yep.
we'll have to bring it back. There'll have to be a public hearing on the change text, and then you'll approve the ordinance with that change in it.
Okay.
Sounds
Yep.
good to me.
Everybody okay with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Somebody want
Should we reach a consensus to ask staff
consensus
to
better than a
bring a
motion?
new ordinance forward that will be voted on? Question, Mark.
It's fine to do it either by consensus or by motion. I just wanted to clarify that the motion itself doesn't have any effect on the tax. It's just directing staff what to do in terms of bringing the ordinance.
Motion to direct staff as directed.
When you actually adopt the ordinance, that'll be the thing that actually has the effect taxing those types of things.
They're doing basically what you're saying.
Yeah, you're saying the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Just different ways.
All right, so you
Yeah,
want
I
to
mean,
keep the motions in play, Mr. Downey?
It's fine.
Okay, first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
I vote thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Eichelberger. Next up, FY 22 budget adjustment. Kelsey, please introduce yourself in the matter.
Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon. Kelsey Mace, Interim Chief Financial Officer. I'm coming today to request a budget adjustment to the FY22 budget for the Board of Election. Due to shifting of expenses related to the primary election from FY22 to FY23, staff is requesting a budget adjustment to reduce the expenses in FY22. Since the election has been moved, the Election Board will no longer incur certain expenditures in fiscal year '22. A budget adjustment is being requested to reduce the budget by $380,080 and place those funds into the operating reserve. The Election Board's FY23 proposed budget does include increases for certain costs related to the primary election.
This is just basically because the election got moved from June 28th
Yes, so this is just, so they don't spend it in '22, we want to put it back in reserve.
Motion to
Thoughts,
approve.
comments?
Oh,
Second.
sorry.
First and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. Next up, Kelsey Back, retiree health insurance.
So good afternoon again, Kelsey Mace, Interim Chief Financial Officer. Staff was asked to research what the cost would be to offer higher subsidies to retirees for health insurance benefits. Currently, retirees pay 50% of the premium for health insurance benefits for themselves and their dependents. The county's other post-employment benefits, or OPEB plan, reimburses the county for claims that are paid in excess of the premium collected from retirees. Staff has asked the county's actuary, Bolton Partners, to provide an impact study on what the cost would be if the county changed the premium subsidy offered to retirees. Bolton was given 3 different options on how the subsidy could be tiered based on years of service. Using those options, they gave us the impact on if only the retirees were given the additional subsidy and dependents remained at the 50%, or if both retirees and their dependents were given the additional subsidy. A summary of the results can be found in the tables below and are based off of the different assumptions. So the first exhibit shows the 3 different options on how the years of service and subsidy could be tiered. Option 1 is retirees with less than 5 years of service would be at 50%, 5 to 14 years at 60%, 15 to 24 years at 70%, 25 to 34 years at 80%, and anyone with 35 or more years of service at 90%. The second option is retirees with 9 or less years of service at 50%, 10 to 19 years at 60%, 20 to 29 years at 70%, 30 to 39 years at 80%, and 40 or more years at 90%. The third option was retirees with less than 25 years of service would remain at the 50%, 25 to 34 years of service at 80%, and 35 or more years at 90%. So before I move on to the next section, is there any questions on what we're suggesting as options for tiering it?
Yeah, I kind of do. On the first one there, you said years of service 0 to 4. Why would that even be included? Don't you have to have 5 years or to be vested?
To be invested in the retirement plan, yes, but it is my understanding that the health benefits are offered at retirement regardless of years of service. Here's the one that's better suited to answer that question.
Somebody in that group can probably answer that.
So Deb, there's a question on currently, anyone with less than 5 years of service, do they get the health benefits?
If they are retired?
Yes.
Yes. But no, because they have to be vested, no.
Do they have to be?
Someone better walk up here. We
Somebody
can
walk
hear
up
you.
to the microphone so the public can hear. Restate the question so we have.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess for me, I was just concerned why someone with less than 5 years service could participate in our insurance program.
We just recently became aware through a request to our actuaries prior to this request that those who are age eligible do not need to be vested to retire. That came to our attention within the last 6 weeks. That is why it was listed as an option.
Just a thought of mine, I'm just thinking.
So you're saying age.
Age eligible, and that would depend on when you were hired, prior to July 1, 2019, 60 years of age, 60 years of age for uniform, non-uniform. After July 1, 2019, it's 62 years of age.
But we could say you have to be vested.
Yes, we could say that. It would need to be written into the plan.
And I don't know how many retirees that would fall into that category, but
We'd need to reach out to the actuaries.
it's just.
Right, this is just different options to present as a starting point of the direction you would like us to take. So moving on to the next exhibit where it says retirees only and dependents stay at 50%. So this shows what the funding status of the OPEB plan, what the annual service cost, and what our required contribution would be if only the retiree receive the additional subsidy and dependents stayed at 50%. Currently, with no change, the service cost is $742,000. However, since OPEB is overfunded, a contribution is not currently required. If only retirees are given the additional benefit plan, our plan liability, which I'm sorry is not listed in your agenda, would increase between $3 and $4 million, and the service cost, which is listed, increases between $167,000 and $222,000, depending on which tier option you would use. Again, with only doing the retirees, since OPEB is so well funded, making this change would not require a cash contribution in fiscal year '23. However, because we would be increasing the liability and the service costs, we would be drawing down our assets more rapidly, which may shorten the number of years which we would not need to contribute. So that's what's summarized in the second exhibit. The third exhibit that I have here is if we did the change for both retirees and their dependents. So if the retirees and dependents are given the additional benefit, our plan liability then would increase between $5.9 million and $7.5 million. And the service cost increases between $275,000 and $366,000, depending on which option. As you can see in the exhibit, changing the subsidy for both retirees and dependents would result in a contribution in fiscal year '23, with the most expensive option requiring $308,000. I want you to keep in mind that these contributions are only calculated for fiscal year '23. As is normal practice, the required contribution is calculated annually by the actuary and is based on the most recent funding status. The amount that would need to be contributed in fiscal year '24 and beyond would depend on investment performance and the actual costs that are paid out of the fund. So at this time, I'm open to questions, comments, or any kind of direction you would like to see us take
Kelsey, I mentioned to you in the back there that I appreciate you looking into this. It's been something that I think many people have been talking about for many years. And to have the cost actually come in less than what you had initially had suggested was positive. And kind of like where Terry was going with it, that maybe another way of reducing that is that we put some sort of requirement that you have to be in the retirement program. Is that
Vested.
Is that kind of what you vested? Yeah.
I would agree with that because in theory, someone could start maybe at 61 years of age and work for 1 year for county government. And once they reach 62, they could retire after a year and get the benefit of health insurance, which I understand why some people might be motivated to do that. But should that be the responsibility of the taxpayer? I think the reason this conversation was brought up is to reward those long-term employees for working their entire careers with Washington County government. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And so if you have, I mean, maybe they could still do the 50-50 split or whatever they're currently offered. But I think that would even reduce the cost even more.
Yeah, I think you summed it up just now. You said it's to reward the long-term employees. You know, I think that's what you sort of got to keep in mind.
I do just want to add one thing, just so I have it in the record. So currently, without making any changes, our liability in the plan is $14 million, which of course our assets outweigh that to have the 214% funded status. So I just want to say that with the $14 million liability that we have now, if we went with just retirees only, the most expensive option would take it to $18 million. Under retirees and dependents, the most expensive option would take it to $21.5 million. So that's the plan liability, which our assets fund against to determine our funding status. So that's when I say that the liability would increase anywhere between $3 million and $7.5 million. That's what I'm talking about.
When you say
So that's not.
Are you saying per year?
So that's just our overall plan liability, which may change depend on. Now this is getting into more what Bolton does. I'm not sure what all changes the liability if. I can't think of what I'm trying to think of. If participation determines that, and that changes every year depending on who is on and off, I'm not sure. That's just the plan liability that needs to be funded, which right now with the assets we have, it would be. But depending on which option or direction we go, we might have to put more cash in now, or we might shorten the time period that we can put off putting cash in.
Okay, hypothetically, just option one. The service cost with no dependent, just the employee, is $964,000 with no money being put in now. How accurate is that?
So that's directly from what Bolton provided, and that's because with drawing down from the assets we have enough assets in the amortization of 15 years that we have to cover that cost. So we would
Okay.
not be required to put cash in because there's adequate assets there to pay for
And the
it.
same option with dependents is 1.1 million basically, and
Mhm.
we'd have to put a little over 300,000 in.
Right, and that's with the addition of the liability.
And that's reoccurring every year.
At that dollar amount, I can't say that's what it would be every year because it depends on the plan's
I mean, it's gonna
performance.
vary, but
It will
it's-
vary, but yes, I would foresee if
It's not
we,
gonna be 3 million next year, you know?
I don't know that it would increase that much.
Right. I mean, right now, we're so well-funded that we don't make any contribution. We don't budget for any contribution to OPEB.
Right, and even with, say if you wanted to go with the most expensive option, I say the most expensive, but the one that requires the most cash up front now, we would still remain at 140% funded, and we would still be drawing down from the assets, but we would want to contribute that additional cash to keep us funded.
So, and my recommendation would be that instead of looking at doing a yearly thing, that maybe we make a one-time lump designation to that fund, whether it be $1 million out of the surpluses. I know it says only 300, but maybe we could do $1 million or up to $1 million, a little more, double it, something, so that we are already at that, you know, we're surpassing that level.
We're going to run out of surplus money.
No, I don't think so. I've got 10, in my mind, I've got 10 million set aside.
When you say depend, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
What age dependents again? Is that, you're saying?
Well, it depends. It could be, I mean,
Typically, it's a spouse. However, for those who started with the county, say when they were 18 and retired in 25 years uniformed, they may still have children that are under the age of 26 that would be considered.
In our current liability, what are we paying this year's budget for healthcare?
For healthcare or for the OPEB plan?
No, okay, healthcare first.
I don't have the number for healthcare.
Then the second part.
For the OPEB plan, as it stands right now, we are not contributing any cash out of our budget.
That's because we are so well-funded.
Yes.
Over the years.
Yes.
And what has been our contribution that we've been doing that we became so well-funded?
I don't have this history on the contribution, but I think we also weren't drawing as much out to reimburse ourselves as we could have, and that's what led to it being so well-funded.
Is that one of the reasons why we got 3 AA bond ratings?
This helps. And any change to the negative in the funding status, and if we grow the liability too big, could have an impact. However, as it stands right now, I think as long as we keep over that 100% funded status, we would be okay with the rating agencies.
How much would take us under 100?
I don't know that.
Do you have from looking at everything you see, do you have a recommendation?
I am bringing you the information. It
Yeah,
is up.
but being as you're the interim CFO and we have HR sitting there, just to go, and I'm not asking you to make our decision, I'm just saying, look based on your books and your budget, and I think the question that was just asked about bond ratings and our rating status, just, you know, a little bit of help maybe.
I don't necessarily have a recommendation. I think whatever avenue you take, because we are so well-funded, it is an avenue that we could
We can deal
pursue
with.
now, yes.
Okay, that's what I want, yeah.
How long are we secure with that 140 if we would overfund it? A year?
That all depends on the cost of claims being paid out, so it's going to depend on, you know, the youth of the health insurance, it's going to depend on how the investments do. I can't really say that.
I think everybody's asking you a lot of hypothetical questions, and when it comes down to it, I think we just, the number that we're talking about here, 308,000, is not a exorbitant amount of money. I mean, obviously, I believe option one is the best option. I think it gives the best benefits to the long-term employees. Option three kind of didn't start giving benefits until 25 years, But I know people that put 15, 20 years into a business, that they should be kind of rewarded for that. Anyway,
Right, so this was just a starting point. If you guys want to change how it's tiered, I mean, we can explore that. This is just kind of what staff put together as options.
I think it was a good plan.
Yeah, I mean, as Kelsey said, I mean, staff did spend a lot of time coming up with these three different plans to submit to Bolton to try to get some numbers.
Yeah, I
So
think
you can have an idea to see what it is. I mean, I think, you know, we look at the numbers about what it would cost over and above what we contribute now, which is zero, because we're so well-funded. It is going to increase our liability
It is.
for the
and-
plan, because, I mean, more people are going to be in it, and we're going to be paying more from a county perspective. So we are going to increase the liability of the plan in some fashion. You know, if we do this as we go through it, we'll be able to see that, but we don't exactly know how many people are going to, you know, how many
Do
people
the
are going to retire
employees
and get in the plan
contribute to this at all?
Right, so that's what
So
we're,
this isn't coming out of, this isn't necessarily coming out of our pockets.
so the 308,000 would be what?
Yeah.
Yes.
But after this, I mean, the employees contribute to this, right?
Right, so the amount that we would draw back out of the fund would be netted against what is collected in premiums from the retiree.
Currently, the retirees pay 50%.
Right.
Right. I guess one more.
No, I mean, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I meant over the years. Is that a part of the retirement plan that they are paying? Does some of that money come out of what they're paying in over the years?
No,
It is
this
not.
is
It is
separate.
not.
This is
Okay.
strictly just the health
Retirees.
insurance.
Right, the
All
amount
right.
of money people put in goes into the retire.
All right.
Yeah, this is a totally separate fund and separate
plan.
plan from the retirement pension,
And they don't pay anything into that?
just the
Okay.
premium.
All right.
Right, so when you look at our liability, right now, they pay 50%. So if you do this tiered
That's
system, right?
50% of the premium.
Of the premium, right? So then you have, you know, if you change these percentages, then they will pay less.
I understand
The
that.
retiree will pay less, and the county will pay more. That's why our liability will increase.
Yes, that's why
Yes.
the liability increases. That's why we could see a drawdown of the assets a little bit more rapidly than what we would do without the change. But like I said, just because it is so well-funded right now, that's why it's even a possibility to talk about it.
I just have one more question, and
John's July 1.
I sort of like the way you did the options, actually. I mean, it gives you a whole lot to think about, but let's just say, for instance, option 2 is services yearly is somewhere around $1 million. It could go forward or backwards, right? Oh, you agree with that? About every year, right?
Which one are you looking at?
Option 2, on what dependents?
The one, yeah.
Giving them the same.
So approximately $1 million, we'll just round it off, we're close. And then, is that yearly then, 76,000 to put in, is that every year?
That's what would be determined every year by the actuary, depending
Okay.
on how much we draw out in the performance of investments and if we did any other kind of contributions. So that gets determined annually. So beyond FY '23, I can't state what we would be required of us in '20.
Well, and then it also seems to me, I might not agree with this, that we were talking about rewarding long-term. You know, so let's just say option 2, so somebody with 29 years would get 80%. No, 70%, I'm sorry. So you'd have to hit 30 years to get 80%. So I'm just thinking out loud, I don't know what's the average years of retirement here? Is it 25, 30? Is that what it is? 35 to 40 years? So it's not a lot of 20-year people or 25-year people. Gotcha.
I think something to keep in mind too is that we are living in a time where people aren't sticking around for a job for 30, 40 years anymore. I mean, people change jobs they change jobs a lot. So I think if you take that into consideration also. I didn't care for option 2 because 20 years is a long time, 25 years is a long time, and to the 29 to lose 10%. And so that was my only problem with option 2, and I didn't like option 3 because, of course, it didn't start anything real significant until 25 years. But
Kelsey, can I ask, does what you asked Bolton to consider for us, would employees who are already retired but still fall under that 65 year of age guidelines, would they be able to come back? What if they left county government, decided not to continue county insurance, or what if they did leave county government and continue with the 50-50 split with county insurance? They would, correct me if I'm wrong, they would now be eligible for the greater benefit based on their years of service? Or is this only from this point going forward?
No, they would be eligible. Annually at open enrollment, retirees are sent out the same information as our active employees, so they would have the option to select our benefits.
Okay.
So that's the ones that are currently retired and using the county insurance.
Either currently retired and not using, or currently retired and using. The operative word is retired. If they have retired from county government, then they are eligible to receive our benefits at open enrollment annually or when they go out the door.
So if we approve this during open enrollment, we may have retirees who opted for whatever reason not to take our health insurance. Now this may be something they want to consider.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And Bolton did kind of adjust their assumptions, knowing there would be an increase in usage based on this change, so that was incorporated into their valuation.
Okay, good. And I do appreciate the fact that you have, like we discussed, it's laddered based on people's years of service. So the longer tenure an employee has, the more benefit that they have. I think as what was said by someone else on that side of the room, Charlie or Randy, younger folks, my generation, don't seem to stick with the job. So, you know, going forward, this may not be that much of a benefit, but certainly for our people who have worked with the county for years, this is a benefit they could take advantage of, and a good benefit. I'd like to talk more about those years of service. I still question if 1 year of service is worthy of retirement benefits for until that person reaches 65.
No.
That just, I don't know what that number should be. For retirement vestige, is it 10 years?
No, our vesting is 5 years.
5 years.
And we are in agreement for retirement. The Human Resources Department is in agreement that that should be 5 years, given that that is what the vesting is. As I said, this was just something we recently became aware of when we were doing research on another topic.
Would that require more study, more of a vote?
That would definitely require a vote. That would be something that the county commissioners would need to make a plan change.
Yeah, we would have to amend the OPEB plan and bring it back forward for adoption.
So what I'm saying is, that's probably not a vote we could take today. Would more information need to come back? Would a draft of the retirement policy have to come back to us?
Yeah, I would think we want to. I mean, I'm looking at Kirk, but I think we'd want to.
Yeah, I think we'd want to
We want to talk that through and make sure that we did it correctly. If we're going to amend the plan, actually amend the plan.
Yeah, that would require
That would
a new
require us to
drafted
take a look at
plan
that.
and a vote on a new plan.
This is not the retirement plan, though.
No, this is the
I mean,
OPEB plan.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about, Wayne?
No, I'm talking about health insurance. Someone who has 1 year of service, in my opinion, county should not be paying health insurance, but just based on 1 year of service after that person retires.
Okay, well, this is different than the retirement plan, though.
No, we're talking about trying to make it match.
Commissioner Burkett, there is the plan design states, at least according to the actuaries and our retirement attorney, that once an employee becomes age eligible, which is whether it's 60 or 62, that they can retire even if they are not vested with the 5 years, which is how our interpretation of the plan has been for years.
Right, and so, but currently, if they do that, they can retire and accept health insurance, is that right?
If they are vested, that's how up until recently we were under the impression the vesting is 5 years. We just found out that it's actually, you can retire by your age eligibility. This is new. We have not had anyone do that yet.
Okay, so let's say I work for 2 years, and tell me if this is what you're thinking. If I work for 2 years, and I quit,
If you quit, then you didn't retire.
okay, Can you maybe explain what your thinking is?
So the example I gave was that, according to what Deb told us, retirement age for county government is 62 years of age.
60 or 62. And it's 50 for uniformed, though up until recently, we have told the employees, and our interpretation has been that you must be vested and have had 5 years of service to the county. Before you could hit the age, but you couldn't retire until you also hit the vesting.
Right.
And I'm interested in seeing vested employees eligible to qualify for what we're discussing here today.
Certainly.
So what I just said earlier, my comment was, if someone 61 years of age comes to work for the county today, they work 1 year, and they're age 62, they meet the county's retirement age requirement.
Yes.
They could retire.
Yes, in theory,
Okay.
as of today.
And continue to receive a benefit, a health insurance benefit paid currently 50/50, 50% by the employee, 50% by the county until they reach Medicare age.
Until they reach age 65. And then once they would reach age 65, they would come off the plan as well as their dependents. Their dependents would be offered COBRA, and they would in essence go on to Medicare if they're
So from
eligible.
age 62 to 65, we would
3
be
years.
offering a health insurance benefit to a retired employee with 1 year of service.
Yes.
I don't like that. That's
But
my
we can
point.
do that. But we can do that now, right?
We just became aware of this. It is something that, yes, in fact, we can do. However, we'd like to make a recommendation for the plan design to change so that the vesting would require, regardless of the age, you be vested by 5 years or with 5 years and meet age eligibility requirements.
So could we vote on a proposal today for health insurance subsidy, and then ask you to come back at a later date to look at our retirement vestige?
I'll defer to the county attorney.
I would prefer to wait a week before we vote on this, only because our employees in the county are listening, and they could possibly come back and have some suggestions or ideas that we want to make and adjust to what's being offered here today. It's not that I'm against supporting it today. I would just like to see if there's any employees out there that are listening, to see if they have any recommendations or suggestions, because we're dealing with different groups that can retire at different times. Your police agencies, 25 years, county employees, the rest of us, 30 years. I would like to see if there's going to be any discussion or any comments from our employees based on these percentages. That's my position.
We wait 1 week, you can bring this other information
And
back
the other
next
question
week.
I was going to have, does this affect our pension plan at all?
This particular, the OPEB discussion does not. This is a separate plan with a separate fund.
So the discussion, but once it's implemented, it will have
It's still a separate plan and a separate fund from the pension.
But the pension plan would be affected with the vesting
Yeah,
requirement.
If you change the vesting, that would affect both plans. If you made it to have the benefit, you had to be vested even if you aged.
negatively affected.
Not in my opinion.
No, and it definitely, not with the financial piece, I don't think.
Can we
That's
wait 1
just
week
my
and,
thought.
can
I
we
just
wait
like-
1 week and bring it back with the other information? Commissioner Kiefer,
I'm fine with that.
you okay with that? Wait 1 week, and it's got to be on the schedule next week, agenda?
Yeah, we can come back
And
in
bring back
for
that
for
information
further
about-
direction.
And bring back the information about OPEB, 5 years matching the plan, 'cause I'm in agreement with Mr. Kiefer on some of that.
I have a
We're
question.
not going
I
to have a
made-
draft by next
I
week.
say, I won't be able to have a new plan draft in a week. We'll have to
Okay.
reach out to our actuary and possibly CBIZ
Okay.
to help with that.
ASAP? as soon as possible.
So I had asked about having this prepared in time for us to include this in our fiscal year '23 budget. Because for our contribution being what it is, we can go past do we have to start this in time for open enrollment, July 1st? Can we start
Open
this?
enrollment started 2 weeks ago. It closed last Friday.
Okay.
So
Do
we are
have to
waiting
do
for
this
you.
to start for July 1st benefits? Or can, if,
Yes, we would need to do that. Actually, a member of our staff will be going out on a leave, so
So you're saying that could this start mid-year? Is that what you're asking, Wayne, if it doesn't?
I don't want a delay in a vote to delay this benefit, so I twofold. Can we start mid-year with this if we need to? And then secondhand, we're not dependent upon our fiscal year '23 budget to incorporate these figures.
So, because I knew I would be asked about the funding, so one of the thoughts that I had is you guys just voted to put $380,000 back into the operating reserve. What I could do is use that to fund some of the capital outlay requests that we have currently sitting in the FY23 budget, which would relieve some budget in FY23 that could be reallocated to an OPEB contribution. Whether that's at 300,000 or more or less, we can determine that, but using those reserves that we just approved, I could shift funding around.
And that would meet his request, and it'd be in our budget.
Right.
So then
that-
second part, knowing that open enrollment has ended,
these employees, the retirees have to be updated in the system by the second week of June, like in the system, which means they have to receive their certified mailings, have made their selections, and have been entered. And updated to the 3 carriers, all by that time. So we have to have everything in and up, sent out, signed, sent back, put in the system, uploaded into our own system, as well as the 3 vendors by mid-June, so that their insurances, any changes or whatnot, could take effect July 1.
so does a delay in vote on this jeopardize getting the plan started for this upcoming fiscal year?
May I defer for 1 second?
I was going to say,
Yes, yes, it does.
So is today our deadline? If we vote today,
We can make the percentage adjustments later if need be, next year or something like that.
well, I wasn't asking for necessarily adjustments, it's really the retirement
So-
eligibility.
if they would adopt it today, could we do that? Yes. What if
The
it's still-
benefits coordinator is,
So this is actually going to be 2 different kind of decisions. One would be to change the plan documents to include vesting and age rather than one or the other. The other would be a vote to change the subsidy percentages for the retirees and/or dependents. So there's going to be 2 different votes. If you want to vote for the subsidies today, I'm not sure if that's going to require a plan document amendment or not. I would have to see what that entails, but if you want to move forward with that today, we can vote on just that today.
I'm ready to move forward with option 1.
Would you be willing to, I agree, I agree with option 1 as well. For less than 10 years of service, if we're looking at maybe taking less than 5 years of service, we're looking at changing something there. I don't know if 9 years of service or less is worthy of 60%.
I'd be willing
To change that to 50%?
yeah, I'd
Okay.
And with the other?
Talking
So
option 1
we're looking at-
with dependent, is that what we're talking about right now?
Option
Yes.
1 with
With
dependents.
dependents.
Okay, so right now, we're just looking at the percentage, but then we'll talk about whether it's going to be retirees or retirees independent. So you're looking at option 1, but you want to make a change that 9 or less years stay at 50%?
Yes, so there would be a change in probably our required contribution. It would only be to our benefit.
So then, is that going to shift the percentages down for the rest of the
No.
years of service, or you just want to leave it for that 5-year window,
Just for that 5-year
60%?
window.
Okay.
So can I make a motion to approve option 1 for employees with dependents and changing the 5 to 9 years of service to 50% instead of 60?
second.
All right, for clarity. Wayne, would you repeat that one more time, just for
Okay.
clarity, okay? Thank you.
I make a motion to approve for employer plus dependents, option 1, as presented with 1 change. And that change is changing years of service of 5 to 9 years to 50% instead of 60%.
And that's listed as 308,800 in there.
That's just the estimate with,
Yes.
but yes.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 5-0. Congratulations. Great job, staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I need a motion to go into closed session.
Closed session.
Deb?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Thank you very much. Oh.